at football athletics.
I'd like to bring this meeting of the school committee to order, and in doing so, please join me for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like to take time out of our agenda this evening and ask you all to join me in a moment of silence in honor of Yoshiro Matsu and Doris Rankarate, who passed earlier this fall. Both individuals, Yoshiro has been with us for 28 years and Doris for 29 years. So in honor of their work in the community and in support for their family during their time of need, please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. We were considering trying to adjust our agenda to bring up some of the later items up earlier for the convenience of people attending, but Mrs. Burgess will be in late, so I don't want to disrupt the agenda until she gets here, if that becomes necessary. So we're going to go in order of the agenda, and we're having a little electronic trouble, so I'll try to keep everybody abreast of where we are. And we really have a nice commemoration at this point, and I want to tell you that Dr. Maestas and I were in China during a terrible event, and we got a great deal of confidence in communicating with Plymouth and the Plymouth Police Department during the crisis a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago. So let me read this plaque. This plaque is to the Plymouth Police Department commendation. In recognition of the exceptional professionalism and diligence in pursuit of the successful return of Plymouth students to the safety of their home. The dedication of the police personnel reflected credit on the police department, the school department, and the entire town of Plymouth. With gratitude and appreciation from the Plymouth School Committee, dated November 20th, 2017. And Dr. Maestas, could you add a few extra words to this, please?
Yes, I think we're very fortunate in our community to have collaboration with the Plymouth Police Department. And, you know, we are tested from time to time with protocols and operations to be able to relieve and resolve issues that happen on a daily basis. Just happened to be that the work that we've put in with our safety committee, work we put in with collaboration with the fire and police department, with our administrators in the district, we don't look forward to opportunities like we witnessed a couple weeks ago, but we had an opportunity to just test our operations, and the Plymouth Police Department worked tirelessly along with my staff to really help resolve an issue that we're very grateful that it had a very positive result. And I talked to Chief Botteri, and he was going to try to stop by tonight, but we really felt it was important to recognize the collaboration and recognize the partnership that we have with the Plymouth Police Department. I tell you that the operations that took place on the evening of question was expeditious, professional, and the result was unbelievable. To be able to have resources come to the table to resolve an issue that we all had an interest in, it was very well done. So we thought it was important that we signify and identify that this relationship and the hard work of Chief Botteri and his department should be commended, and for that reason we thought tonight would be appropriate to give them a gesture of our appreciation for helping us to resolve this issue.
And you will see that this plaque gets to the right hands.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whitley.
And now we have a presentation from the West Plymouth Steering Committee. Dr. Maestas?
Yes, tonight we have Mr. Russ Appleyard. He is a member of the West Plymouth Steering Committee, and I had the opportunity to talk with Mr. Appleyard on the phone, and I've also had the opportunity to talk with him at our last town meeting in reference to the interest that the West Plymouth Steering Committee has in taking a look at the Route 80 road that is near West Plymouth, West Elementary School. And there's a significant interest from the West Plymouth Steering Committee to actually take a look at the condition of the road and the condition of potential sidewalks. So Mr. Appleyard is here tonight to walk through a presentation that he's put together to kind of bring everybody up to speed on what his group is working on and the thoughts they have. And I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Mr. Appleyard, thank you for coming here this evening.
Thank you for having me. As you know, there's a serious situation on Route 80. Walking on Route 80 can be dangerous for all pedestrians, but especially for young school children. There's frequently less than 3 feet between the highway barriers and the road surface. And this is on Jamie's path at Route 80 looking west. And you can see that it's not very advantageous. Visibility of pedestrians to cars can be very poor due to curves in the road. Children living within 2 miles of West Elementary must either walk to school or be driven unless their parents are able to pay a bus fee. And in addition, there's recreation facilities for the students there also for after hours. It's difficult to reach. In the winter, with snow plowed to the barriers, safe walking would be impossible. And I'd like to point out the car here, which is very sensibly crossing the double yellow line to avoid hitting the suicidal pedestrian taking pictures, which would be me. The West Plymouth Steering Committee has, sidewalks in West Plymouth are a key objective of ours, and we picked Route 80 for a bunch of reasons, the biggest of which is that it actually has an elementary school on it. You know, a number of people on the West Plymouth Steering Committee have children in either in that school or in the school system as a whole. We're proposing that the sidewalks start on the north side of Route 80 between Village Rest Trail and Megansett Drive, where an existing sidewalk from Carver Road ends, and go west to the lights and pedestrian crossing signals at Commerce Way. From there, the sidewalk will continue west, but on the south side of Route 80, which is the same side of Route 80 as the West Elementary School. And you can see the blue line is where the existing sidewalk from Carver Road up about 1/8 of a mile along Route 80. The proposed sidewalks are in red and go by the West Elementary School, and we show it all the way out to the Plymouth-Carver town line. But we told Mass DOT that we'd be willing to settle for getting it out past Kirsten Road and the last of the houses that are located on Route 80. The Planning Board, Plymouth DPW, the West Plymouth Steering Committee, and Representative Tom Coulter met with Mass DOT District 5 in early October, and they were very receptive, but emphasized that it was imperative that West Elementary join the Safe Routes to School program because the best chance of funding for these sidewalks would flow through the Safe Routes to School program. And there's going to be a meeting tomorrow with the principal of West Elementary and the Safe Routes to School people, along with the Planning Council. And once we have confirmation from Safe Routes to School that West Elementary has been accepted in the program, we're going to notify the Planning Board, Old Colony Planning Council, Mass DOT, and State Representative Coulter that West Elementary has joined the program. We're going to then invite the Route 80 abutters, because this was a concern of Mass DOT, that, does everybody want this? Is anybody going to complain if we start putting sidewalks in and so forth? We're going to invite the Route 80 abutters to a West Plymouth Steering Committee meeting and ask them to sign a petition to Mass DOT showing their support for the sidewalks, and anybody who doesn't show up will see us door to door. And then meet with Plymouth DPW to determine the cost of preliminary design work. And if this appears to be the way to go, and this will be in consultation with the Planning Board and with Mass DPW, we would put a warrant on spring meeting or on fall, depending on the timing, to pay for to get the design work up to 25%. Because that seems to be a key in terms of getting these kinds of projects prioritized with the state. And we have a couple of town meeting reps on the committee, myself included, and so we can do that. And then also I'm going to be meeting with Representatives Coulter and Muratori and Senator DiMassato to solicit support from Governor Baker for a state budget earmark for the project. If we don't get the earmark, this year. We'll try for it next year. The time frame for this is somewhere between 3 and 5 years, getting the money from Mass DOT. But we'll just keep up the pressure in each budgeting cycle. Once we get the sidewalks on Route 80, we're going to then start working on Carver Road and South Meadow Road. And I hope that by the time I'm in a retirement home, we will have all of the sidewalks in place there. Does anybody have any questions?
Dr. Maestas first.
Just a follow-up. Tomorrow, there's a meeting at West Elementary with Old Colony Planning Council, and we have entered into study opportunities with Old Colony Planning Council for a number of our schools. And years ago, we had the opportunity to take a look at West, but sidewalks was an issue. And the Safe Routes to School is really an opportunity to take a look at alternative avenues to get to school. Since West is not really in a neighborhood, there's maybe a couple of streets that can access the campus through trails behind the school. The sidewalk issue has always been somewhat of a concern at that school. So just like some of our other schools, we don't have a lot of schools that are really walking schools. But the idea of having that area reworked with sidewalks would be very similar to what happened in front of South Elementary School probably 8-10 years ago. And if you go to South Elementary School now, you'll see sidewalks from one end of the road to the other, which has been a huge improvement for people that do choose to walk down that road.
Mr. Morgan.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the Safe Routes to School program that we would need to be participate in order to be eligible for the grant?
You sign up for the program, and, I mean, Dr. Maestas probably knows more about it than I do, given that some of the schools are on it.
Sure, I can talk about it. With the Safe Routes to School program, what they do is engineers come out and they study the campus. And they study potential opportunities to develop alternative ways of getting to school other than car or bus. So what they do is they map out opportunities to maybe have a parking lot that might be 200 yards away from the school. Parents would drop off and they would encourage kids to walk a couple hundred yards to school to actually get them some exercise and not necessarily have to drive into the campus because it's a crowded campus, or even create opportunities for kids to get from their home to school safely without having to get on transportation. So it looks at different opportunities all the way from exercise all the way to creating opportunities to get students from home to school without huge supervision, but yet also not use transportation means like cars, buses, vans, et cetera. So it's an audit that the Old Colony Planning Council will engage in, and they will go on campus. They'll spend a couple days surveying the entire campus, surveying the roads that lead to the school, and they'll make recommendations on what can happen. And those recommendations will then be, from my understanding, be attached to the grant application, which will probably include sidewalks. So I think that's how that whole piece would turn in and benefit the grant application.
Ms. Sun.
I know Mass PTA has been partners with Safe Route for Schools for years. I was president in 2008, and we partnered with them. And when we do the walking days, I believe that stemmed from Safe Routes to School. They also do the walking school bus, where some kids start walking, and then they pick up some more kids and pick up some more kids. So I think it's grown from what it used to be to this amazing resource for schools, where it just used to be ideas and ways to get out there and get moving. Now they're actually have funding ideas and all sorts of other ways of doing it. And a few of our schools, I think in Indian Brook, contacted them as well for
Yeah.
something.
We actually have a number of our schools that have gone through the audit, and we actually have opportunities. Let's say now at South Elementary, what the bus will do is it'll stop at the beginning of the driveway, and the kids will get off and they'll walk from the beginning of the driveway to school, opposed to door to door from the front of a bus stop to the front of the school. They'll give a 150, 200-yard walk to get the kids a little bit exercise in the morning. But that's one of the recommendations that they'll provide. Keep in mind that the new Plymouth South High School engaged in a significant Safe Routes to School study, and that the information on Safe Routes to School that study was shared with the architects in the development of the new Plymouth South High School. So the sidewalk design, all the aspects of how you get to and from Plymouth South High School from the road, those recommendations that the Old Colony Planning Council developed, they shared those with the architects so they could keep those in mind as the school was being built. So there should be plenty of routes to get from the street, which, Long Pond Road is not the safest of roads to walk, but from the entrance to the school, there should be plenty of opportunities for students and staff or anyone to actually access the campus.
Great resource.
Other questions? I have one for you. Sometimes when we solve a problem, we create a problem. North Triangle Drive across from the firehouse, what school are they zoned into?
West.
West.
Yeah.
So what concerns me, what concerns me is that if they were to start to walk, they will have to cross Route 80. You see the sidewalk goes on one side,
Yeah.
has a crosswalk, and then picks up on the other side.
Yeah.
If they begin to walk because of that sidewalk, they'll have to cross at that point.
Absolutely.
Will we put a crossing guard there?
I think we'd have to deal with that. If we did have a number of kids that did walk, we would have to consider that. We have a similar situation at Indian Brook now, where students on the east side of the street have to cross. We do have we have a crossing guard there that we placed in the last couple of years to actually allow students to cross where the flashing lights are. But you're absolutely right, Dr. Sorensen. Anyone that would be on the northern side of that 44 and into 80, if you're on the north side, you're going to have to cross the road, which is somewhat of an issue. And that's a heavily trafficked road. I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah, I would think
activity.
if these sidewalks come in on the other side, we're going to have a crossing guard there.
Yeah. And
Because drivers are going to try to make that light.
And I'll tell you, the traffic on that street in the last year has increased dramatically, and I see it'll continue to increase. There's a lot of development in that corridor, so we'll have to see what develops. But to your point, if we have made adjustments in road assignments for crossing guards depending on the need.
Okay. Any other questions about this proposal? Mr. Morgan?
I just want to commend Russ for taking on this project. As you may know, I was on the West Plymouth Steering Committee 9 years. The last 3 years I was the chair, and going back to 2001, sidewalks was on our agenda. So, we've tried to get developers to pay for it, tried to get the state to pay for it, try to get the town to pay for it. So, take one bit at a time is the way to go, and I wish you luck on that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the
Thank
presentation.
you very much.
Is there anybody else attending?
Could I ask
I'm
one-
sorry, yes.
one question, but directed at Gary? Any other schools? Federal Furnace was possibly the only one I could think of, but were there other schools that, since this is a process that's going to take a while, are there other schools that we should start the process for also?
I think there's benefit to having a Safe Routes to School audit on the campus. And what I can do, Mr. Begley, I do not remember how many schools we have that have gone through the audit. I think we chose schools that had alternative opportunities to get kids to near the campus.
Right.
But what I will do for the next meeting, I will pull the list. I'll be meeting with Old Colony Planning Council tomorrow at West Elementary, and they have a log of all the schools that we've engaged in the process. I'll get the list to see who has, and we can have a discussion. Is it valuable to maybe enter into
Start
that?
the process at the other
Yeah.
locations too.
Yeah.
Good.
It definitely provides great information for the application for the grant, because it does show a level of diligence and preparedness and interest. So I think that will definitely help if we do something else.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. Is there anybody attending tonight's meeting who would like to address the committee who isn't already on the agenda? Okay. Seeing no hands, then we'll move on to our representatives. We'll do Megan first this evening.
Hello, and thank you for having me tonight. To start off, we had the Plymouth Marching Bands had a wonderful day on Saturday performing at the annual Thanksgiving Parade. It was a fantastic performance by the students. And we also had this weekend the first musical in our new theater. It was Little Women, and both shows were outstanding. And I can say, as a student who used to be in the combined musicals and wasn't able to do this musical, it was great to see support from both Plymouth North and Plymouth South students there. The boys cross country team finished second at the Division IV state cross country meet and headed to all states this past weekend. Congratulations to the team of Strickland Davis, Julian Sinek, Shane Hickey, Billy Kenny, Andrew Kenny, Pat Clark, and Ryan Nicholson. We also had students from both North and South attend the MIAA Sportsmanship conference at Gillette Stadium last week. Marketing is selling luminary bags for $5 to benefit Cranberry Hospice. These bags will be on display at the December 1st Christmas tree lighting downtown at the Jenny Gristmill. Skills USA Leadership Conference is this week in Marlborough. Students from both Plymouth North and Plymouth South are at the leadership conference as we prepare for district competitions. Congratulations to our girls soccer team as they made the second round of the MIAA tournament. They had a great season, and we're very proud to have them. Thanks to our cooperative education employers who joined us at a breakfast last week to say thank you for providing the co-op jobs. And Culinary Arts put on a great omelet bar. The junior class is doing a toy drive to benefit the Plymouth Area Coalition for the Homeless, and they will be collecting new toys through December 19th. And juniors that bring a toy in will be entered into a raffle to possibly win a discounted prom ticket. National Honor Society will sponsor a blood drive on December 1st at Plymouth South High School in the gymnasium. It is from 8 a.m. to 1. Social studies teacher Allison Shaver recently presented at the National Social Studies Conference in San Francisco. Her workshop was on the best practice for psychology teachers. We also put together 25 turkey baskets and gift cards that have been delivered to local families in need. Thank you to all who donated. South Avenue Acapella is hosting a fall invitational concert on November 30th at 7 p.m. Northeastern University's Distilled Harmony will be there, as well as the semi-professional group Sound Off and Plymouth North High School's Menergy and Girl Trouble. The Culinary Harvest Market will be open tomorrow. Please stop in to purchase appetizers, cakes, pies, breads, and all the fixings for Thanksgiving dinner. It's on a first-come, first-served basis, and it opens at 7 a.m. The PSHS Guidance is hosting college admissions representatives during K-Block up to 3 days per week, and this has been like a great opportunity for students to be able to see schools they might not have had the chance to see. The new road for the school is open, and we hope to see constructions on the new student sidewalk starting soon. And that's all for tonight.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. Spirit Week continues with amazing participation by all students. All classes are collaborating to win the coveted Spirit Trophy Award. Each day, the students await the final numbers from the previous day. As of Friday, the standings are as followed. Fourth place with 510 participants are the freshmen. Third place with 557 participants are the juniors. Second place with 563 participants are the seniors. And first place with 589 participants are the sophomores. It's a very close race. It could be anyone's race. Due to the holiday, there will be no late buses on Tuesday, November 21st. Please plan accordingly. MCAS parents' reports were mailed home with results from May and June 2017 MCAS tests. MCAS retests for any students have not yet passed math or ELA took place in the beginning of the month. Congratulations to golfers Jonathan Liskoff and Jack Parker for being selected Patriot League All-Stars. Also, congratulations to Chloe Gates for being the selected recipient of the Plymouth North Sportsman Award and Tony Pagninas as our scholar athlete. Congratulations to the following Patriot League Field Hockey All-Stars. Seniors Ariana Bremis, Julia Zanaboni, Caroline DeGravio, and freshman Maeve Reynolds. Also, congratulations to the Academic All-Stars, senior Isabella Balboni and our sportsmanship winner, Julia Ford. National Honor Society induction will be held on Tuesday, November 28th. The ceremony will be held in the Performing Arts Center at 7 p.m. The Thanksgiving football game will take place at Plymouth South High School, sorry. Tickets will be on sale at all lunches starting Tuesday, November 16th through Wednesday, November 22nd at Student Services. Advanced ticket prices are $5 and $8 the day of the game. The Thanksgiving game will be held at Plymouth South at 10 a.m. Congratulations to the Plymouth North athletes that have signed their letter of intent with the colleges or universities that they will attend in the fall. Donnie Cahoon has committed to play baseball at the University of Hartford. Nick McName has committed to run cross-country and track at Stonehill College. Sophia Cantone has committed to play lacrosse at Merrimack College. And Molly Levitt has committed to play lacrosse at American International College. Are you looking for holiday gifts, school apparel, a warm winter hat? With lots of new apparel, there is something for everyone. Please join us for a festive evening to get a head start on all holiday shopping. The event will be held at Plymouth North High School in the school store on Thursday, December 7th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. The first day of winter sports season is Monday, November 27th. All family ID registrations must be completed prior to tryouts. The athletic department will hold the Fall Sports Award Night tonight at 6:30 p.m. in the Performing Arts Center. Congratulations to the Plymouth North dance team for placing third in the MASSAA State Championship. Plymouth North High School students were invited to become mentors in violence prevention in a program called Game Change, which is partnered with the Attorney General Mara Healy, Robert Kraft, and the New England Patriots. This program will help students recognize positive relationships and warning signs of an unhealthy relationship. Congratulations to the Plymouth High School Band for being accepted into a parade performance in the Magic Kingdom Park on Sunday, December 31st. This is a very exciting performance to get to be a part of in a very busy day at this iconic Disney park. This will be an amazing performance opportunity to wrap up the Florida trip. Thank you.
Those are two really good reports, and I can tell you that school committee members, in following your last part, school committee members have received quite a few compliments on the Thanksgiving Day parade participation of our band. So pleasantly bring that back. People are noticing
Thank you.
the quality of the music and the uniforms and the performance, and they'll do great in Disney World. Wish we could go with them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just
Go
add
right
on to
ahead.
that? And also the Veterans Day services, they were excellent there too. And it's a lot of pressure because the Bud Band is there and they're great. And it sounds like Battle of the Bands sometimes, but you guys stand up well. They do very well.
Thank you.
Okay, our next agenda item is old business. Committee members with any references or any old business to refer to this evening? Dr. Maestas.
I have one item to report on old business. I know a couple of school committee meetings back, we had a item regarding Plymouth North High School and the sound system. We had a situation where we had the dance team that was out on the field for a good amount of time without the sound being played, and it was somewhat embarrassing for our students to be out, our student athletes to be out on the field. So one of the things that I realized after looking into it, the athletic director actually met with the girls and apologized to them for the sound system and its dilemma. So we did have a conversation last Friday about it, and we have had a number of concerns with that sound system at North. It's since we opened the campus. It seems that the controls are very accessible, and anyone who goes in has the ability to make adjustments and tweak the system. And one of the things that we're going to do is modify that system so that it's very easy to operate, and designated people have the opportunity to do that. So that's one thing that we're going to do this winter. So hopefully we can resolve some of these issues with inconsistent sound and sound levels. So, but I know that it was brought up that you know, it was an embarrassing situation for our students, athletes, to be out on the field without some level of response. But I do know that the athletic director directly went and sat with the kids and apologized for that moment that they experienced on the field. So I know that did get brought up in old business and on new business. It's old business now. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Hunt?
I actually brought it up, and I think I mentioned when I reported too that he actually put a letter in writing to the girls
Oh, that's great.
immediately, the day actually that I spoke to you about it. So thank you very much for, you know, it was very quick. They got an apology right away. So, and I did mention that when I
Okay.
brought it up, but that
great.
the girls were very impressed that it was taken that seriously.
Excellent.
Anything else under old business? Okay, how about new business? Committee members with new business? Going once? Okay, moving along. Reports and proposals. Dr. Maestas.
Yes, I have a few items to report tonight. Just want to let the committee know that I will be providing, along with Dr. Sorensen, he doesn't know it yet, but a report on our trip to China to foster relationships with some schools in China. We had the opportunity to visit several schools, form partnerships. We actually had dinner with one of the parents of one of our students at Plymouth South High School. And I tell you, I was in China 10 years ago, and to see the difference in the environment, to see the difference in education in 10 years is remarkable. It's 180 degrees different than when I was there last time. It's very encouraging. We have an opportunity to meet with a number of schools and school officials and talk about possible partnership, and it was a very encouraging visit. We will be presenting a report to you with some pictures and so on with some of the schools that we visited. I have it scheduled for December 18th. So we'll put that together and we can talk a little bit more in detail about the relationship and what we're looking forward to doing in having more students from China come study, and the distinct possibility of our students going and doing some visits there and actually visiting the schools. It's pretty interesting. We had lunch one day with a group of students in the student cafeteria, and it's all they want to do is talk English to you, you know. And we had a great time, and really got to know some very excited educators that are very interested in learning what we do in the United States in education. Dr. Sorensen and I did not. We realized that we had to give a presentation, but we didn't realize it was going to be in front of about 250 educators from around China. And we were scheduled to provide a presentation, but it landed up being a 3-hour lecture. And we were asked questions all the way, questions from creativity to bullying and discipline, bullying and harassment in schools and how we deal with it. And policies and practices that we have in our schools. So the topics and the questions that they asked of us are very similar to the questions that we have when we get together and talk about education in the United States. So, and then we left, and Dr. Sorensen was like a rock star. Everybody was taking his picture, you know. So it was really a great opportunity.
Well, there was a picture of us going into the university, and they had our pictures up there, but everything underneath it was written in Chinese, so we don't know what they said about us.
No idea.
That's why they took my picture.
I had no idea what. Yeah, but we were the education specialists from the United States for 3 hours, and but I tell you, it was very encouraging, and I think our students will. I know our students will really benefit from the relationships that we're forming. So but I just wanted to bring that up. And I'm reading from my phone like our students because the internet is not working. So just remember that tomorrow is the last day of the week. We do not have school on Wednesday. Just want our parents to know that this is a change for us. We don't have a half day on Wednesday. And I did hear, along with the comments earlier this evening, about participation in the parade, the quality of the band. But I will tell you, I went to the Illuminate celebration that evening, of the evening of Saturday night. And our students sang, the Plymouth International Chorus sang, Northern Lights sang, powerful, just powerful. This year was the first year they had the Illuminate event indoors. First Church, I was at First Church Plymouth, and it was standing room only. It was powerful. So just want to, shout out to our students. And I really want to commend our teachers who have actually worked diligently, Mike Capel and his staff, for just preparing our students for the phone calls they get to show up at these events. And they're on a moment's notice, and they always respond. The kids are so excited. But, to see the confidence level in our students in front of crowds, it's working. The things that we're engaging in and giving students opportunities, you really see it working. And I'm very, very happy that our visual and performing arts programs are actually getting to a point where they're on demand all the time. I have two more things to report tonight. The marching band, they are going to be performing at Disney, and I'm going to be on a family vacation that same time at Disney, and I want to get a chance to see them. So I'm very happy that I know they were going to be down there, but now they'll be, marching at Disneyland, and I think that Disney World, it'll be great to actually see our students, and I'm sure we'll take some pictures and share them when we get back. And this weekend we had the opportunity to have a bunch of teachers over to my house for the grand prize winners, and we had a great time, and I want to thank you all for coming and sharing a good time with our teachers and just learning more about what they do, and a lot of conversation, and it was a great time. So I just want to thank our teachers for coming, and we met our goal for at least getting everybody together. So
Great.
With that said, Dr. Sorensen, turn it back to you.
Okay. Retirements.
Yes, we have 3 retirements to report. Sue Dadgis, who's been a food services manager for 22 years at Plymouth South High School. Mary Ferreira, a main office secretary, 17 years of service from South Elementary School. And Mary Thulin, library media specialist, 8 years at PCIS. Thank them for the years.
Ms. Hunt.
On behalf of the Plymouth School Committee, we thank these individuals for their service and wish them a happy retirement.
Correspondence, Mr. Morgan.
Getting there.
Can you see them
Yeah, I'll just use
again?
this.
Okay.
Electronic issues. All right, getting there. All right. There are 2 pieces of correspondence tonight. The letter from the visit, the 1820 Working Group and the Building Committee invitation to submit a letter for the new Town Hall time capsule, and a letter from the school committee to be signed tonight, which has been signed and submitted for the time capsule.
And that letter has circulated before the meeting, and it's sitting here for Mrs. Burgess' signature when she gets here. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a mid-cycle update. Dr. Maestas?
Yes, tonight we have our principal and his administrative staff and school council from Plymouth South Middle School. Principal Morganwick is here, and they are here to present their mid-cycle update to their school improvement plan, and I want to welcome South Middle School and their school council for presenting this evening. So welcome, everybody.
Thank you very much. As we all get ourselves into position here.
So,
All right. Well, good evening, committee, school committee, and thank you to Dr. Maestas for the intro. I'm Steve Morgan, principal of South Middle School, and this is our mid-cycle update on our school improvement plan. We have here tonight representing our school council, Justin Kearney, Alicia Kearney, assistant principal Joe Murphy, myself, science teacher Rob Skinner, math teacher Amy Ring. We're happy to be here. These people have worked diligently on our school improvement plan, on the development of that plan, and in our regular updating and review of our goals and our mission as a learning community. I want to start by sharing that our school improvement plan, as it was written almost 2 years ago now, and we recognize as of late that the quantifiable nature of our plans as they were written, the measurability of the plan as it was written is not up to our current standards and expectations for our school committee. As we move forward, we are looking to develop goals that are measurable, that are specific and time-oriented, and I think that you'll see that in our presentation this evening, that our plans from this point going forward have all those measures in place, and we'll continue to do so. And the next draft of our plan, which will be happening at the end of this year, will of course be reflecting those expectations from the committee as well. Thank you. Oh, I'm going to give you a microphone. There you go.
Were you moving the slide, or is that
What's that?
the slide?
Steve has
sorry.
control right there.
I do. There we go.
Okay, so I'm doing the overview of the school population since we've lost the 5th grade at Plymouth South Middle School. Between our 6th, 7th, and 8th grades, our population is pretty evenly distributed. We have 4 district-wide classrooms, 19% students with disabilities. Those students receive specialized services for social, emotional, or cognitive disabilities, and 16% of our population qualifies as economically disadvantaged. There's information about our staffing. We have this year 2 Pilgrim area collaborative programs. One serves students that are elementary school age, and students 18 to 23 years old in the building this year.
We had one of those programs housed in our building last year, and with the departure of grade 5 and the space that we had available, we were able to work out an opportunity for a Pilgrim Area Collaborative to be in our building as well for the second program. So during our presentation, we're going to review each of our 4 main goal areas, our school improvement goals. We're going to share some highlights and updates related to each one of those goals and discuss our plans moving forward. Our first improvement goal is to enhance student social and emotional growth, health and welfare, and demonstration of civic responsibility. Oops, can't have the microphone. Sorry.
All right. So raising the percentage of student demonstrating behaviors that contributed to positive learning environment and social cultures. So how this is being addressed is through multiple avenues. One of the things that Plymouth South Middle School is offering is over 30 clubs and organizations. And there's been a growth in this, and we're seeing over 500 students participating in at least one of these clubs. These clubs work on helping with peer development, skills with leadership, and contributing to overall culture of the school. Some of these clubs that we have are the Recycling Club, the Sparks Clubs, which promotes acts of random kindness, and the Stays Club. In addition to these clubs, we're offering enrichment opportunities through advanced learning programs. And the last year, 100 students participated in the after-school classes. Those are art appreciation and robotics. We're looking on expanding these to 2 additional classes this year, and in which this will increase the number by 20 students participating. In the last 2 years, We have also seen an approximate 15% increase in student numbers participating in sports teams. One of the nice things about this is the school is looking at the kids enjoying the sport, learning about the sport, so that it will contribute through, into high school. One of the big things that we're all seeing is with the new high school, we're seeing new turf being put down, and we're also looking into having the middle school fields rejuvenated so that the kids can play on nice new fields, and possibly expanding this over into the high school fields. This might also bring along new sports, such as lacrosse and tennis. We're also looking at the overall social perspective of the kids. So we're looking into designing new programs that will work on interpersonal relationships and communication skills. While kids are working, as we're seeing more cell phone connection, more internet connection, we're seeing that with these things, the social interaction and being able to interact with the peers in the community is decreasing. So taking that into note, we're looking at piloting a program with with grade 6 students, and expanding upon that and trying to look at more social etiquette programs, and possibly building upon that throughout the school.
We have the opportunity to take some of the programs that the elementary schools have been building over the last 2 or 3 years and adapting those programs in terms of social learning and social etiquette to the middle school level. And I think that having the continuation of those programs coming from one level to the next makes a lot of sense for us to be looking at as options. It will be wonderful to have our athletic fields back, as Mrs. Kearney was talking about. Before the construction project, South Middle School and South High School shared field space very well. We played nicely together in the sandbox, and our sandbox has become just that for the last couple of years. And so having our field, we're going to be repairing our field. We've resurfaced our tennis courts already, and so the expansion of those programs when the fields are back in place will be wonderful. We mentioned the tennis courts. We've also we're lining our tennis courts now with pickleball courts. I'm not sure if you know what that game is, but I believe it's the game of the future. And our students and teachers in gym class love pickleball, and so we're going to hopefully be able to offer that, and ideally at some kind of interscholastic level. The other area of athletics that we would like to pursue is the possibility of having a unified sports program at the middle school level as well. And that's something that we don't have in place currently, but I think we have wonderful opportunities to be able to do that. Along with the objective of raising students demonstrating behaviors that contribute to a positive learning environment, I wanted to take a couple seconds and speak about our ongoing efforts towards substance abuse prevention. Over the course of the last 2 years, we have created a concerted or a formal outline of which programs students would be receiving each year. We wanted to get away from the time where students would come into an assembly and they would see an assembly, and 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students would see the assembly, and then that assembly would come back again the next year and the kids would be seeing it again. So we have now identified a 6th grade assembly, a 7th grade assembly, and an 8th grade assembly. 6th grade being Drug Story Theater, which we were able to present earlier this year over at the South High School Performing Arts Center. It was great to be able to take our kids and have a very short walk from our door to the high school and be able to use those facilities for that performance. And so it was beneficial in terms of the program and the messages received from the program, but also to be able to have our students interacting with the high school and the students and staff there as well. So we have a couple of different programs that we are in the process of building currently. I know that you're all familiar with the PreventSure model that Dr. Maestas has worked to bring here to Plymouth. That's a model for 8th grade students. The program's for 8th grade students. Both middle schools, as of Friday, have completed our screening for our 8th grade students. And I believe that right before this meeting, I got the message that the survey results are in. And so now we'll move from the screening into identifying the students who will be invited to participate at a deeper level and go through the workshop model that's going to help them recognize and understand the personality types that have been identified, and how to build the skills that will help them be able to make good decisions now and into their future as it relates to substance abuse or substance use, excuse me. That's Preventure. That'll be for 8th grade students. We also are now rolling out the SBIRT, which is the Screening, Brief Intervention, and Referral for Treatment program in the 7th grade. We've already had it in 10th grade for the high school, but now for 7th grade, that's the other level that the state would like us to roll this out in. So our school nurse, guidance counselors, and health education staff have been working to plan the implementation of the program for the last several months. We have 2 days set aside in December, the December 5th and the 12th, to screen all 7th grade students. Students who screen positive will receive further verbal intervention from the school nurse, and with the student's consent, an SBIRT-trained school counselor will also be available to speak with the student that day for a possible referral for increased treatment. In addition to these programs, Dr. Campbell has also, the district recently has received a grant that will allow us to take part in the Botvin Life Skills Training Program. This is a very interesting concept. It is basically a series of modules that address everything from substance abuse prevention to the development of personal skills and excuse me. Let me rephrase that. I apologize. It focuses on the substance abuse prevention, but it also builds personal skills for the students who are going through the program. It is a 3-year cycle, or at least that's what it's suggested to be for the middle school level. 15 modules, I apologize. 15 modules for grade 6, 10 modules for grade 7, 5 modules for grade 8. What we're trying to do right now is look at the scope and sequence of the Botvin Skills program and figure out where it can fit into our curriculum. We have our current classes and their scopes and sequences, but we want to make sure that there might be areas that there's an easy tie-in for those workshops and those modules into our current curricular offerings. So we're looking to work with Dr. Campbell and our health education staff and other members of our school community to roll that program out as well that will be for all 3 grades at the middle school level.
Increase the number of students who participate in authentic, service learning opportunities, and boy, are we doing that. $17,000 raised, a little more, for charities and PSMS families through student programs. That's just an overall number. It just goes to show the generosity of the families from our community. We do several initiatives, and I knew I was coming to present tonight, so I emailed some of the teachers involved with the programs, and they wanted me to give you some more details than just what's up here. So if you don't mind, I will give some details about those programs. The hurricane relief, the 8th grade, the civic students on the 2nd floor, apparently there was a grassroots organization started on Facebook, Adopt a Family USVI for the U.S. Virgin Islands. And students found out about this and had their teacher email to get some more specifics about it. And they ended up sponsoring a specific family in Puerto Rico. It was a very small project that went viral that our students became a part of, the 8th grade students from the 2nd floor. Their original goal was to send 100 boxes to families, so it goes directly to those families. And as of last week, the organization shipped 27,000 boxes, and 7 of those boxes came from Plymouth South Middle School 2nd floor students. So it was an exciting opportunity for them to have a real personal connection with specific people in Puerto Rico. And, side note, it was interesting for them to learn that Puerto Rico is actually a part of the United States. Yeah. So they were very surprised and excited to learn about that. Then on the 3rd floor, civic students, 8th grades, they brainstormed fundraising ideas for hurricane relief and came up with the bracelets. Mr. Murphy, oh yeah, and Mr. Skinner has some right now. They had a design competition. They came up with this idea to sell the bracelets, and they are doing all the marketing. They came up with a website. They created their own commercial. I think you can see that's them on the green screen there. There's a finance manager. The proceeds go to Team Rubicon, which is a group run by veterans who travel around the world to to help victims of natural disasters. So the students have really immersed themselves in that project, and it's ongoing. And then the other thing that was on there, the coffee cart program. Every Friday we have a coffee cart for staff and students who want to participate. It's run by the school psychologist, Stacy Strassel. She works with the ASD and life skills programs, and it's part of her social skills group to help them with social skills. And they practice skills like changing money, following a routine, hygiene, pre-vocational skills, and general conversation skills when they have to interact with their customers. And they all have certain roles that they do. Some people pour the coffee. I mean, it's really, they do a really good job. And I know we always look forward to saying, are we going to go get the coffee cart on Friday? And then we have World Water Day. This is actually a fun activity that has come about. Really, it started in 7th grade. I will take that and say we started in 7th grade. With the reading of the book and the curriculum, Long Walk to Water, the story of Salva and, how do you pronounce that, Joe? Salva? Is it Salva?
Yes.
Yes, okay, Salva. About war-torn Sudan and South Sudan and how that all came about, water shortages in sub-Saharan Africa. It's part of the curriculum. So as a result of that book, organization started by Salva to raise money to have wells dug in Africa. And actually, the 7th grade, through a couple of years, it took a couple of years, but we actually have our name on a well in Africa. We're proud to say that. And because this was an ongoing part of their curriculum in social studies, when the kids got into 8th grade, they still were wondering, well, what happened? We want to follow up on what happened to our well and what's going on with that. So it became a cross-grade sort of effort to support not only the 7th graders who were doing the long walk to water, but also part of World Water Day, where there's awareness about how we have such free access to water, but there's many countries that don't, and what people in other parts of the world have to go through to get uncontaminated drinking water, and how children have to walk for water and tote water. And so they have these fun activities where the kids get to simulate actually carrying huge amounts of water around. And it's part of that whole awareness of what people in other parts of the world have to do. The 8th graders design T-shirts for the Water for South Sudan project. The proceeds go to the Iron Giraffe Challenge, which is what in Africa they call the wells that come down, the iron giraffes. And all that money, it's an ongoing project that year after year, kids from 7th and 8th grade are participating in. So, and we're just so proud of the kids. They take off when they get part of these community service projects. You get to see a whole other side to them, and our families really support it as well. We're proud of them and their community service work, and we're going to start recognizing that as part of our quarterly honors celebrations. That's going to be part of what we celebrate, not just the academic side, but being part of a community and really what we want of our kids, to look beyond themselves and look at their community and the larger world that they're a part of. So we're real proud of our kids.
I will tell you that that Mrs. Ring mentioned how proud she is, or we are, of the students. I'm also very proud of our teachers. A little over a year ago, I charged them with trying to take our philanthropic spirit at our school. Again, we raised $17,000 for charities last year. Our students love to give back. And I wanted to really make sure that we were not just doing clothing drives and money collections, but also really bringing the learning to the service that we're doing. So to tie all these service opportunities into the actual curriculum, they've done a really nice job of finding ways to tie those two things together. So thank you to our teachers and staff as well.
Just one additional comment with a little humor added onto it. Recently, we have had a Thanksgiving food drive, and Mr. Morgenweck, he challenged the students to bring in 600 or more canned good items. And he baited them by asking them, if you could do that, he'd show up to tomorrow's tomorrow's pep rally in a costume. Well, not only did the students meet the 600 mark, but they doubled it by 1,200. So Mr. Moringwick and our other assistant principal, Mr. Gagnon, will be dressed up in some festive costumes tomorrow for our pep rally. I think the kids are going to get a kick out of that. So nice job done by the kids there. And all that food's going to be donated to needy families in our school and in the community.
I guess that makes you wonder why Mr. Murphy's not dressing up, right? That was your question?
600 more.
That's our goal for next year, 1,800, right? I have to give a shout out to my wife because the kids chose a cornucopia as my costume. And you can't buy that in the store. So my wife, she's a recovering elementary school teacher, and she had a lot of fun with the hot glue stick and garland yesterday decorating me. So it's something to behold. If anybody would like to come by our pep rally tomorrow afternoon, 12:30 or so, come on down to school. You get to see us in all of our glory. Our second goal area, our second main goal area is to increase family and community engagement. Our next speaker will be Rob.
Okay, so objective 2.1, strengthen family and participation in schools and student learning and development. This August, for the first time, Plymouth South Middle School had walkthrough days where new students and families would come in August, and they would be able to meet their counselors and administrators. Previously, it was held in May, and it was the ice cream social. But when the kids came in, their schedules weren't set. They didn't know what homerooms they were going to be going to. So now in August, all that stuff is set. They know where they're going. They have a better idea. They feel better about it. So that was the genesis in moving that to that time. Let's see. We're also revamped the schedule and format for open house. In past years, we've had that on 2 nights, and this time, because we don't have 5th grade, we were able to have it in 1 night, and we redid the schedule so that the parents come in, they meet all the teachers on the team at the same time, and the teachers can give a little talk about, either their particular subject or overall team expectations, and it went really well. As a teacher that's done it both ways, I like this way better, and we get really good feedback also from the parents for this. We're looking to seek new ways for parents to get involved. Currently, there's a parent committee established to review and recommend changes to our honor celebration. I think you touched a little bit on that, and I don't have the details here, but it's an ongoing process that we're trying to get done by the second half of the year. So more details when that comes out, or you can touch upon that. One of you guys can touch upon that later. And thanks to a grant from the Sunshine Rotary, we now have funding for our community gardens, our garden beds. Students and staff will be working with members of the Healthy Plymouth Community, Terracura, and the Sheriff's Department to build and plant renewable gardens at the school on December 4th. The plan for the upkeep is to involve parents and students from PSMS and to have 2 families per month adopt the gardens for upkeep as a way to bring the parents in and have a more community-based relationship with them and have them on the campus. That's it.
So just again, a couple of quick notes about some of those programs. Our open door days back in August, we had 124 families come through, which is roughly half of our incoming grade 6 class. In addition, we also had 7 families come through for families who were 7th and 8th grade students coming in for the first time into South Middle School. So to have the opportunity for those families to be able to see the school, get their bearings before the first day of classes was a really big thing for them.
Can I just add a comment about that? I got a lot of positive feedback myself from families who had decided to transition out of other schools, for example, private schools, charter schools, or people who had relocated into the Plymouth area over the course of the summertime and had missed some of those opportunities that we had at the end of the school year. And they were very thankful about being able to put names with faces and to see the space, but not on that first day with all the movement that goes on. I think that from like a child's perspective, the anxiety levels were just drastically reduced, and people were very thankful of that opportunity. And I think it's pretty safe to say we're going to be doing that moving forward based off of all that feedback.
One of the other notes about our open house program this year is that we had the opportunity to bring Hidden in Plain Sight into that program. So we knew we had the parents there for that night as it was, and to be able to get them to be able to experience the Hidden in Plain Sight substance abuse prevention program was a wonderful opportunity for us. And so we had probably 70 families or 70 sets of parents go through the program that night who wouldn't have seen it otherwise. And so and all of them were astounded by what they learned while they were there for just a few minutes of time. So it was nice to have that as part of our offering as well. Our next objective is to enhance communication between the school, home, and the community at large. In the past year, we have made a deliberate effort to highlight the academic program at PSMS by consistently sharing photos of students' learning and classroom activities in our weekly newsletter and on social media. We have also expanded our presence on social media by linking the Twitter and Facebook accounts associated with the school. And in the last 12 months, we have increased our followers on Facebook by more than 300%. Our followers on Twitter have doubled. Each week, we send out a community newsletter to all PSMS parents. Until now, the document was shared as a PDF file PDF attachment through a traditional email distribution. Starting next week, we will be sharing the newsletter through Constant Contact. We believe the switch to this multi-platform direct mail system will increase the number of parents who access the newsletter as a primary source of information about the programs and services at the school. We will conduct a survey 4 weeks after the rollout of the new format to see if the change has been effective. In response to parent feedback, we will make an effort to improve communication about the social and cultural differences between elementary and middle school. That's one of the things that we're hearing from some parents about changes, for instance, with the open house schedule or expectations for team and homework and things like that. So we're going to make some efforts to help communicate more clearly the differences between what parents and families are used to at the elementary school level and what they're going to be experiencing at the middle school level. This will include a creation of a handbook for families new to the school community, as well as quarterly newsletters written specifically for students and parents in grade 6. These materials will be developed over the next 4 months and will be ready for distribution as part of our transitional programming for students entering PSMS in the fall of 2018. In January 2018, we will host our first Principals Coffee Hour and invite parents to come meet with the administrative team in a relaxed and informal setting. The intention is to provide additional opportunities for parents and school leaders to discuss school-related issues. Coffee hours will be held every other month during the current school year. Our third goal area is to enhance academic achievements for all students at all levels.
The first objective in this area is to expand student access and exposure to current technology and real-world applications. We've accomplished this in several ways. A new course is being offered this year to the 8th graders as a pilot. It's going to start in the second half of the year. It's called Digital Citizenship. It's a pilot program designed to teach teenagers how to contribute to a global society in a safe and responsible way. Participants create a digital portfolio and use online tools to document their interests, activities, and reflections. Students also learn about coding and are given the opportunity to build a personal website. The class also focuses on ways that students can protect themselves while having a presence on social media, including lessons on privacy settings, public Wi-Fi, and safeguarding personal information. More than 80% of the teachers in the school use Google Classroom to share information and resources with their students. The platform is also being used widely to allow students to create, collaborate, and demonstrate their learnings. 98% of the students in the school will be proficient in the use of Google Classroom before leaving the school. And while computer use is prevalent in the school, students have a limited opportunity to code or work with robotics. So we're going to be adding some additional advanced learning classes this winter, which will integrate those two topics together.
So the next part of our third objective speaks to increasing academic performance for all students. And some highlights, some accomplishments that I can speak to. In terms of data analysis from MCAS, I'm not sure how much information you folks have received about that, but MCAS scores have been released to the public as of late. And the general trend across the state is that scores in Massachusetts are down. I think that that is a direct result of a more challenging test, trying to prepare our students for the next generation of employment. And I'm sure in time, as we learn more about that test and we change our instructional practices, our scores will go up, as that is what has tended to have happened in the past. But based off of that, PSMS has taken a data team approach in the past, and we've continued to do that. It's a teacher-driven organization led by administration and English and math coaches that meet together and collaborate and look at test data. We also take a look at how our students are performing based off our district-determined measures and other instruments that we have. For example, in math, we give a math inventory called STAR math testing, and so we take a look and pool all that. You can imagine when you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of kids across many grades, that's a lot of information to look at, and you really need time to really pull it apart. So what we have found is that with our new scores, that there are areas that we've performed well in. There's some areas that we need to focus in on, and so that team of administrators and leaders in the school, teacher leaders as well, are designing curriculum accommodations. They are updating their curriculum. They are looking at how do we attack these different areas of concerns. We're doing that in a variety of ways. We are in our schedule at PSMS. We're lucky enough where we've been able to build in common planning time for the teachers, and they get that every week. They also are able to wrap their head around these ideas in department time meetings, where they're able to meet and collaborate with those teachers that teach in like areas. And so they have at this point the data. We've sort of flushed it out, and they know sort of the direction that we're heading in. So when they're meeting at those times and in teams, that's their area of emphasis and planning. In addition, there's quite a bit of choice that the teachers have in terms of their own professional development. To aid in addressing some of these areas, the teachers, along with administration, have crafted some choice sessions that address some of these needs. Oftentimes, when we break out of these meetings, there's a game plan, and there's a lot of work to be done. And the teachers have asked, can you give us some time for that? And luckily, because we have those choice sessions, we're able to give them that time. And we have a plan going forward for this year, particularly with ELA and mathematics, where those teachers can sign up for those times, and they can continue to collaborate and build and reflect and look at student work and see how we're doing in some of those areas that are concerned. And that's a good thing that we have that because of the creative scheduling that's happened at the school. The next item I'd like to just speak to for a moment is the Math Boosters program. It's really a program that we had put in several years ago that continues to be successful, and we want to try to build on that. And that's something that we've been thinking about, and it's been a challenge. Currently, the two middle schools have been meeting with teachers, administration, and teachers from a variety of grades and disciplines. And Dr. Campbell has been guiding this committee over the course of the last year. And we're looking at potential new schedules for them at the middle school level. And I think the hope is here at PSMS that with a new schedule, we might be able to open up opportunities for this Math Boosters class to actually even have more students participating. Right now, we have about 20 kids that we identify each year when they're transitioning from grade 6 to 7 that are struggling in mathematics, but they don't qualify for special education services. And so it's a way to capture some of those students and skill build. And what we have found is that there's a lot of data there that says that the time that those students are in this class is very well spent. And we're not finding necessarily the payoff is immediately in grade 7 when those kids are in there. But what we are seeing is some of those kids are struggling with math in grade 6 and 7. By the time they're in 9th grade, they're performing at a pretty high level, which is a great jump in terms of where they had been maybe 2 years previous to that. So in terms of the spectrum of their schooling, it's very effective. And we want to look at the new schedule that's possibly being built and say, how do we open up these opportunities to even more kids if we know it's working? Lastly, the math department as a whole has taken on new curriculum. In grade 7, they have been using a program called Big Ideas. We have transitioned over to Big Ideas as well into grade 6. This is exciting because we had our kids jumping into middle school using one particular kind of math curriculum, jumping into grade 7 using another one, and then grade 8 another one. The idea of consistency across grade levels wasn't there, and it was really on the teachers to try to collaborate between each other, between grade 6 and 7 and 8, to try to make sure that there was common ground there. And I think having that curriculum there in grade 6 and 7, along with professional development opportunities and that time for the teachers to collaborate, is great, because they're going to be getting methods taught to them that are similar from year to year. And what we're hoping is that in time, as the students are getting used to that and the teachers are getting more familiar with the curriculum, that there's going to be a nice benefit there. Moving forward, we do have goals that we want to try to reach and hopefully surpass. And we're in times now where we have more students now that have a lot of trauma, more than probably we have in the past. And so Mr. Moringwick has built in professional development time for our teachers to receive 5 hours of professional development training that addresses the needs of those students and best practices on how to reach those kids on a day-to-day basis. Currently, we have had 2 hours of professional development for our staff, and that training has been provided through us, through the Plymouth Area Collaborative. So actually, we had some folks that are in one of those programs that was mentioned earlier in the presentation, who has a wonderful background, a lot of experience, come and give a 2-hour workshop to our teachers. It was very well received, and at the end of it, a lot of teachers at least had told me, we need more of that. And so the plan is going forward to see if we'll get them 3 more hours, and I think that we need to sort of check in with them at the end of the school year to see if they need even more. And if we do, it makes a lot of sense to set some of that training up for the teachers for next year as well. There's another piece that I'd like to speak to in terms of intervention. We've had some great success with our Math Boosters program, and in grade 6, our schedule tends to be a little bit different because the number of teachers that the students have, and so we have some flexibility in there. And we recently had some teachers last year we had some teachers receive some training and finally get certified in a reading program called LLI. Wonderful program, really good results if you can consistently deliver that instruction. And so I sort of challenged a couple of the teachers, would you be willing to give up a little of your own time throughout the day and work on delivering some of that and use your training? And they have accepted. So in grade 6, we're piloting a reading comprehension program, which is wonderful. It's nothing we were able to do before, and it's a small group, and it happens every day. So we're looking forward to see what sort of benefits that we have based off of that. There's a nice residual effect that's happening because of that as well. We have a reading specialist that travels between PCIS and South Middle. We have that teacher in the afternoons. That teacher will be left with a homogeneous group of students who really need more decoding skills. And so he can really target that set of skills as opposed to decoding and comprehension. Now that those two groups have been split, and what we're hoping for is that there's a nice impact there. And I've talked to the teachers. They feel like this is a pretty realistic goal that all of those kids, no matter where they are on the spectrum of their reading skills, that they all are gaining at least one grade level of reading by the end of the school year, which for kids that are really challenged readers is sort of that's a very big goal. But I think they feel like now that they have those separate groups that they can get there. I think that pretty much brings us on to our last goal, which is goal 4, which is providing strong district and school leadership. Just to highlight some of the accomplishments, I feel like we're doing a pretty good job of offering our teachers leadership positions. You've heard about the opportunities where students are fundraising, they're giving back to the community. We continue to encourage that. We are asking our teachers to take a look at how our students are performing, not just in their own classrooms, but across the grade levels and across the school, and to be a part of the problem solving for the whole building, not just for those kids that are right there in front of them. We're going to be continuing instructional rounds. I know that Dr. Campbell helped set up instructional rounds last year. I've had some conversations with Mr. Morganweck this year because we have, for the first time in a long time, we have not had a problem with substitute teachers, which is a wonderful experience. It's really great. And it's a credit to our other assistant principal, Mr. Gaignard. He's done a masterful job of not only finding folks that want to be in the school, but they want to be there often, and they're doing a good job. And I think because of that, because we have those folks, we should be able to get teachers out of their classrooms, going in and taking a look at the practice of other teachers, which is, it's something that we know works, it's something that we know we want to do, but sometimes finding those folks to sort of man those classrooms while the teachers are out doing that is tough. And right now, we don't have that problem, so we're looking at doing that as well. We've also changed the way that we communicate a lot in the building this year. And again, a lot of that has come through teacher feedback from guidance counselors and paraprofessionals and the like. And Mr. Morganweck has done a very good job of listening to those folks and asking them, like, what do you need and when do you need it? And the feedback on how we're changing our communication has been very, very positive. So we're going to continue to take a look at that as well. I just wanted to highlight a couple other opportunities that have presented themselves. We have a couple new courses. I know that Justin had mentioned digital citizenship. That's a new course we're piloting. We've also created an adaptive music class for our life skills students, and it's a real joy to go into that class and watch the nice work that's being done with those kids. That it wasn't a class that they had in the past, and they're singing, they're learning to play instruments, and that's a nice new opportunity as well. Something I'm personally very proud of is our reduction in class size, and this has no connection to losing the 5th grade. We had a challenge in the past where some of our academic classes in 7th and 8th grade, namely classes like ELA, math, science, it wasn't uncommon for there to be 34, 35 kids in some of those classes. Very hard, if you ask a teacher, to manage all of that. And so through some changes in the schedules, I think your average class size at this point, and there are some exceptions, but most classes at this point are around 24, 25 kids. Much more manageable number, easier to work in small groups, and again, there are some exceptions. I can speak to, like, Mrs. Ring. She's got an honors class that is chock full of kids, and it's over 30, but generally speaking, the class sizes are down, and that's a good thing, because what we know about education, a smaller class sizes usually equals higher performance. So that's pretty much it for our fourth and final goal.
One of the areas that I want to mention that's listed up there on the slideshow is to partner with Rising Tide and PCIS in the grant project on social emotional learning. That is again, Rising Tide has received a grant, and they were looking for a partner school, or partner, in this case, partner schools, to work with them. And they approached Plymouth, and Mr. Palladino and I sat down with the organizers of that grant, and we are actively working towards having our teachers and our staff as a part of that program. It's going to entail the opportunity for teachers to be trained and to receive professional development on social emotional learning and incorporating that into the classroom. And hopefully that will be in place starting in January and going forward through the spring. So it's another opportunity for our staff to be able to help benefit our students in their instruction and practice. This slide, this was a mistake. I forgot to take it out, and I'm sorry about that. Okay. Thank you to all of our members of our school committee, those who are here tonight and those who could not be here.
But did anybody have any questions or concerns about any part of the presentation?
Committee members with questions?
I have
Go ahead.
one to make. You opened up, it was a good presentation tonight. Good job.
Thank
But you opened up saying that you're going to be updating your presentation. So in your main document,
Yep.
I just want to make sure we're talking about the
Sure.
same thing. So where you have the way you're going to measure whether you met the goals or not, you're going to make that more quantifiable?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's our intention.
Almost
yes.
every one of them, yeah.
Yeah. No, I recognize that that's the vagueness is something that we're going to correct.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would say comprehensive report. Thank you very much for that and being here this evening. I have a couple of quick ones that I want you to be thinking about.
Sure.
And we're having some technological problem here, so I'm unable to bring up the main document as Mr. Bagley referred to it. But we don't have to discuss it. I just want to make a note of it.
Sure.
There's something that confused me under something called continued need. And then under continued need, you had listed 4 or 5 bullet items, and one of the bullet items said, increasing mental health concerns. Those 4 words, increasing mental health concerns, on that particular page of the main document really didn't make any sense to me. So it
Okay.
could be my confusion or it could be misplaced. You'll have to take a look at that.
Sure.
The
Absolutely.
other thing I wanted to mention is I was very impressed with your 1.1 as it relates to substance abuse. Because we now know, if we look at the data on nicotine, we know nicotine in this country among students is decreasing rapidly. So we know that a multi-generation approach against cigarette smoking is working. We also know Mothers Against Drunk Driving, they have a new name, or
Destructive
whatever their name is
decisions.
now.
Yeah.
We also know that the multi-generational approach to that has students wearing seat belts more than ever. So I'm thinking, and I'm sure we all agree, and this is what Preventature is all about, a multi-generational approach against substance abuse should have the same effect. You know, maybe you know, the younger brothers and sisters of the kids we're working with now, but over time it should work. So I was really impressed with 1.1. And when we talk about the data of the 3 programs for 6th, 7th, and 8th, was it 8th? Yeah, Preventature, SBIRT, and how do you say the last one?
Botvin.
I'd like to hear the results of that, perhaps not at the end of this school year, but your presentation next year.
Sure, no
Because I think
problem.
we're going to see growth in that area. So I'm glad to see that. Mrs. Hunt.
And maybe Mr. Campbell could answer this too. Along with those 3 things, I know that we recently, Maura Healy's program with Chris Herron and GE just got released, correct? And didn't we apply for that for the middle schools as well?
Dr. Campbell?
We have submitted both middle schools for those materials and look forward to receiving those. We haven't received those yet, but we did apply for those. So
that's
we're really
another
looking at.
Absolutely.
Down the pike for that, because that seems like it's a pretty good program.
We're happy to offer any support that we can in this area. It's certainly, we're seeing this, certainly it's impacting our students. We're seeing too many families torn apart. And that's another reason why we're also offering the professional development on trauma, students with trauma, because that's what we're seeing more of now than anything else is broken homes and issues that the kids are coming in dealing with on the inside.
And I think the goal, I think it's Project Here, is that it? And the goal and the funding is to hit all middle
Sure.
schools in the Commonwealth.
Correct. Yep. That is correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
I have a request from the committee to take a 5-minute break, so let's make it quick, please, ladies and gentlemen, 5 minutes perhaps? Back in 5, thank you.
I'm doing it on my phone also.
I'd like to bring us back into session. Thank you, everybody, for that short break. And our next item on the agenda is to hear a report regarding the alternative program Dr. Maestas.
Yes, tonight we have the alternative school director, Kevin Avatable. He's here to provide some information regarding the alternative school and in the form of an update. So I'll turn it over to Kevin.
Okay, just before you speak, I want to tell everybody watching the meeting, we're not, we haven't been texting each other. We've had technical difficulties, and we're trying to follow the meeting along, but I understand now we're back online.
I'm not.
We should move
If I could
I'm
just,
I'm in.
if you join the meeting, you should be fine. Okay, you should be
Okay.
fine.
Well,
And this is an unusual circumstance, but you should be okay today.
I don't have the join button, so I guess we have to log out.
Kevin, bear with
and
us a
come back.
second, we'll be right with you.
No worries.
That, I guess.
If you log in, you should have.
I am not connected to the internet.
Central teacher. Excuse me.
I'm not even connected, yeah.
I have Ms. Hunt joined,
right.
Mr. Sully joined,
Oh.
Ms. Burgess, Ms. Badger joined.
All right, well, Kevin, you may begin, and maybe Marge's computer will catch up.
Yeah, the rest of us too.
All right.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Kevin Avatable. I am the current director of the Plymouth Alternative High School program. So I briefly want to go over just a little bit what we've kind of been working on over the past several months, late spring when I took over the program, and some of the updates and small successes that we've had over the course of that period. So briefly, actually, this is. Mind if I jump? Because I think this was the old one. So the purpose and design, I think, is something that you guys have kind of all gone over the past several years with the previous administration about what the alternative high school and what we're trying to accomplish. So we are a high school diploma program affiliated with North and South, primarily focusing on students with credit failure, credit denials, failures, emotional health, behavioral health. So we're trying to take those students in who may struggle in the day school setting and bring them to a more supportive, smaller, flexible setting. So that's something that we've been talking on and working hard over the past several months to try and keep our students engaged in Plymouth Public Schools. The big conversation that we've kind of had over the course of several months is the student profile and what the student profile for our students looks like moving forward. And I think that's a flexible and ongoing discussion about who and how we best fit our students. I think each one of us comes with a very specific need and very different needs. So the challenge every day is trying to figure out what issues they have and how that we are going to kind of accommodate them with the resources of our program. So that's a conversation that is fluid and flexible, but identifying the right student for our program, I think, is paramount in figuring out, what we can best offer them moving forward. So to kind of go back specifically about, now I'm frozen. Perfect.
Yes, Kevin.
There you go. It is, yeah, right? Is this like a son of a...
Why don't can she change the slides?
Can you go back to the first one? Yeah. So this, no, oh, sorry, this is, there we go.
There you go.
So this specifically is kind of my alternative school beliefs, kind of what I come back in, my background. I believe some of my strengths are on this slide. I think that every student has a set of skills and a set of strengths that we as educators and leaders, and it's our job to figure out what those strengths are. So not all students are good at Algebra 2, not all students are good at American Lit, but they may be good at carpentry, or they may be good at mechanics, or they may be good at poetry or music. And so they are good at other things, but they're not necessarily hearing that on a daily occurrence, because that's not necessarily how the program in the day school operates. So we're trying to find our kids and give them little wins throughout the day. In our program, we focus in on each individual student. We come up with a plan for that student, and we focus in on how they can be successful within us and within the confines of our program. I think that learning is really comes down to four major attributes: communication, coping, goal setting, and problem solving. I don't care what class that you put a student in, I think it all rolls back to those four attributes. I think if you can teach kids those attributes, that they can be successful in classes, I think they can be successful, more importantly, in life. So I think as we move forward into kind of the program, you'll see that everything that we're doing right now is focused on those issues right there. A lot of our kids come disenfranchised, they're disconnected, they feel that adults are after them, they have, the excuses that they use to kind of allow them to feel why they're not being successful. And I think we try to take away and limit those excuses. So I think we're trying to empower them to realize that they do have strengths, that they do have something that they're good at, something that they can be successful beyond high school with. And I think it all really comes down to those, right there, those 4 attributes. Another big thing that we do is simple words have never taken the place of simple action. So, I think the program changes that we've made aren't mind-blowing by no means, but I think they make a large difference because we're expecting them to be, we have expectations for them that are clear and non-negotiable, and we believe that these are the pathway to success. So I think those small actions that they're showing us every day is proving that, that we're not just sitting up here talking, we're not lecturing them. I'm not telling them right from wrong. I'm not telling them things that they don't know, but I am giving them the tools to be able, for them to be able to do that themselves. I think that we offer a very strong and clear system of success. I think, like I said, our expectations are extremely clear for them. They come in knowing exactly what I want from them. I'm beyond flexible. I will work with any student. I tell them all the time, I'll work with you till the end of the day, end of the year, end of your life. You call me up and you need help, I will be there, but I won't work harder than you. I can't work harder than you. This is ultimately your life. This is ultimately your responsibility. And so I'll do everything in my power to help you accommodate those things, but I can't do more than you. Because in the end, when I'm gone, if you don't have those skills that we've talked about, then you're the one who's going to have to kind of reap the consequences of that. So, we're really trying to empower our students to make those decisions for themselves. There we go. So current program information. Currently, right now, we have 50 students in the program. I think with our kind of restrictions with staffing and building and stuff, I think 45 to 55 students is kind of right where we are. That's where we should be in terms of full-time students within our program. I think we max out the class sizes at 12. I think the majority of our classes are between 7 and 10 students. Some of our senior level classes where they need to graduate, we have maxed out at 12. So you'll see a little bit larger student population in those classes. The program is held at Plymouth North, obviously, Monday through Thursday, 2:45 to 7:15. We do offer transportation to school. We offer very limited transportation home for a select North Plymouth stops in the north, in the Algonquin area and Forest Ave area. So that does take it does help quite a few number of our kids, but there's still a big issue of driving kids home at night and trying to get them rides and waiting there and making sure that they have a place to go. So that can be an issue at times. The average student right now is being offered 47.5 to 52 credits per calendar year, and can earn additional credits for work study and advisory. In advisory, I give them a credit for meeting with our guidance counselor monthly, and that's something I'll talk about in a few. Then they're offered 6 classes per semester, Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. There we go. So this has been a big question since I've taken over the program since last late spring. What's happening with the alternative program? What is the purpose? Where are we going from here? And I think that's an ongoing and fluid conversation that we've had continuous since I've taken over the conversation. And I think that that's something that we'll continue to talk about, what this looks like moving forward. What the type of student population we want to work with, who's the best fit for our program. But I think overwhelmingly, the students in my program want to remain in my program. I've worked in Plymouth my entire professional career, even before Plymouth. I've been connected to the at-risk student population since I was fresh out of college, so over 10 years. And I believe that they want a Plymouth Public School diploma. They consistently ask me, at the beginning of the year, am I going to have to go to someplace else? I don't want to go to someplace else. I want to stay with my friends, even though they may not be connected and may have different issues with teachers or circumstances. I think when it really comes down to it, they do want to remain with what they're familiar with. And unfamiliarity with these kids is an issue. That's why they struggle. They struggle with transitions. They struggle with unknowns. So right now, for a lot of our kids, particularly being so connected to the community for a long time, we're unknown. I think kids trust and support us. So I would say the majority, if not all of the students I've spoken to this year have displayed a willingness and a wanting to remain with us and receive a Plymouth South or a Plymouth North diploma. You know, there is like was previously said in the last presentation, there's a growing need for social emotional. So in a school district of over 2,500 high school students, you know, the idea that there's going to be several hundred kids who don't fit into that always, you know, isn't really out of the box thinking. I think that's just that's a fact moving forward. Updates, so some of the new things that we've kind of added, which I think has drastic or improved the current program. We have moved all of the classes at Plymouth North High School to the 3rd floor. You know, I think in previous years, the classes were kind of spread out all over. We have a school building set for 1,500 kids, and we have a program of 50 to 80 kids. There's a lot of exit points, there's a lot of entry points, there's a lot of places for them to go. You know, I think by moving it into a central location, we've really increased the programmatic feel of the program. We've really increased the ability to connect individually with each student, because no longer am I going a day without seeing every kid. I'm actually seeing every kid. I'm going into every classroom every day. You know, the visibility between not only myself, but the other staff members and the other students has really increased our ability to develop that positive connection that I've previously stated is very important in these type of students. Also, we've implemented an expectation policy. You've noticed I didn't call it an attendance policy because I don't really agree with the attendance policy per se all the time, but I do believe that there needs to be expectations. So I think that we allow 8 unexcused absences, but I think really what the most important part of that is the second line under that is that students, if they're going to be absent, I want the student to call me, text me, or email me to let me know why they're not going to be in school, so that they're showing accountability to their own education. I tell them right at the beginning, I don't want to hear from your mother if you're going to be sick. I don't want to hear from your father or grandparent. I want to hear directly from you. Ultimately, this is your education. This is what you're responsible for. And so that's really what we push. So although we have the 8 unexcused absences, I'm really trying to figure out who's committed into making changes and who's committed to the program that we've kind of put forward. So I think I know we've had extreme success in that area. I would say, you know, the majority of our students are engaged, and when they are going to be out there calling, you know, they're texting, they're emailing, they're letting me know what's going on. So that allows me, you know, if something is going on in their life that they have to be absent for, you know, I'm aware, I can help work with them. You know, it's that therapeutic kind of approach that we're trying to facilitate. Them meeting with the guidance counselor monthly. So every student in the entire program is meeting with the guidance counselor monthly. At that point, they're working on short-term and long-term goals, reviewing attendance, grades, behavior, and it's also just an opportunity to check in and meet with the students. Not every kid needs to meet with the guidance counselor. You know, not every kid will meet with the guidance counselor, generally speaking, but I think it's important if you're in this program that we know exactly what's going on, and we're trying to work with you along those lines. So along that same kind of conversation, increasing communication home, increasing communication to the students, where we offer quarterly progress meetings, which we have been completing over the past couple of weeks now, where we're bringing in the parents, and so that they're part of the process as well, so they know exactly, you know, what's happening. I'll kind of switch. So we also go to monthly progress report. So at that same meeting with the guidance counselor, we write up a kind of a short cliff note of what's going on with the student, and then we mail it home. So the parents are getting monthly progress reports home. They're fully aware of the attendance, the grades, any behavioral issues at those meetings. Fridays, as you know, we only go to school Monday through Thursday, so I thought what was a good idea was to utilize Fridays as an opportunity for a number of different reasons. So we are utilizing that as an attendance makeup day. So if you have a Tuesday, you're having a tough day, you're struggling with something outside of school, and you want to come in on a Friday, then you can come make up that absence, and I'll consider it to be a wash. Or if you want to come in just for extra help, we've done college visits on those days. We've done job interviews, taking kids to job interviews on those days. We're doing home visits. So we're trying to utilize that Friday as a proactive approach to remaining in contact with our student, as opposed to, you know, just letting them have a 3-day weekend. So I think, you know, it's surprising you give a kid an opportunity like that. I mean, every Thursday, pretty much, kids are like, can I come in on a Friday? Like, I need to make this up. I was absent on a Tuesday. Like, I didn't really have a good excuse, but I was absent. Can I come make it up? And we've had a lot of success with taking that approach. I actually got that approach from Miss Fry during the whole process about making up days and having that flexibility so that we're working with kids. I have a expectation of them being here and doing what I expect them to do, but I'm also working with them, and it's not just a finite, concrete expectation of this is the only way it can be. I think there's a lot of different ways to accomplish the same goal. We're doing restorative discipline. You know, obviously we don't want to suspend anybody. I don't want punitive discipline. I believe just is not helpful with our students. It gives them another excuse, another reason to kind of disengage. So every conversation, every time there's an issue going on, you know, we're having conversations with the students. We're coming up with alternative discipline. You know, we're not suspending kids. We're not trying to get them out of school. We're trying to keep them in school. You know, we had a kid made a mess on the floor. The janitor was pretty blatant what he did, so he volunteered some time to the janitor to help him, you know, clean up for the 30 minutes. You know, so that type of taking responsibility for your actions, and I think that's what we're trying to preach. And then also, again, on the same lines, the AHS referral process. I think that when the referral sheets open up, usually at this time of this year, names just start flying on the list, and you know it just keeps going up. But the kids aren't involved in that. Sometimes the kids don't know they're on the list. Sometimes they're not sure why they're on the list. So now we're involving the students in that process. We're making sure that they know that they're on the list. We're asking them why they think that the AHS would be a good fit for them, and we're asking them what a high school diploma means to them and why they want to achieve it with us. So I'll kind of go through back again. Whoops. I'm going backwards. Oh, here we go. Sorry. So we've also implemented a number of different events that we've kind of correlated with our students. So just to go over a few, we've implemented a weekly 100 grand award. Is this my old one?
I think it is. I'm not sure what happened. I have your new
Yeah, the new one's updated, right?
Different than the one you have.
Yeah, it's
It's
okay. As long
different
as
than the one you have in front of you too.
Yeah, but it's mostly just the top.
it's gonna be, it's a little different
Different,
moving
yeah.
up because
They have the updated one for.
they have the
services.
updated one. All right, as long as you have the updated one, it doesn't matter. Sorry. Can I go through that one? Yeah.
There's
you
some
can
good
look through-
photos that highlight some of the things that you're referencing, so.
Okay. This one looks way cooler too. Come on. Okay, so this is where we're at. So we've implemented a number of different events throughout the course of the semester. So the field day was the first thing. Usually on Meet the Parents nights at Plymouth North, Alternative High School we get removed from our classrooms because Plymouth North is doing the Meet the Teachers night, so we don't have a place to teach, so the kids get dismissed. So as opposed to dismissing our students, I thought it was a good idea to do a field day, so we took the kids down to Nook. We got some pizza, we did some activities, we got some games, and we did that for the remainder of kind of the day. In the corner there, in the far right corner, you'll see my program specialist, my 65-year-old Mr. Monica, going one-on-one against our 18-year-olds in the basketball court. So, you know, we're really out there trying to interact with these students and make them feel as though this is a trusting, high expectation program where we're really trying to facilitate and work with them to do the best that they can. We have a 100 grand award, which was something new that we implemented. You know, and this may seem a little bit elementary, and I think it seems a little elementary to even some of our students, but I think it's fun. I think that we're recognizing students who aren't always, or who've generally never been recognized for things that they've been doing. So what it says on it, it's cashing in and on excellence, academics, attitude, and attendance. We give them a 100 grand candy bar. We give them some gift cards that we've gotten some donated, and it's just a way to acknowledge them in front of their peers so that they kind of get feeling. And you'd be surprised, 18, you know, this kid was thrilled. He was super excited. Told him I was going to put him on the slide, and he was like all jacked up. So, you know, I think that they, generally speaking, although it is a little elementary to say that I'm going to give a certificate to an 18, 19, 20-year-old kid and they're going to be super excited about it, I think they really actually are, to be involved and be accepted. We recently just completed a career college fair simply for the alternative high school. I know that day school does this as well, but I think a lot of our kids are supremely overwhelmed in that circumstance, that they don't want to be seen as different, but they definitely feel different. They don't know the questions to ask. They're intimidated by the word idea college, the word idea, the career vocational. So we had 13 colleges come from community colleges, vocational programs, and then armed forces come in. And it was actually a really big success. We gave our students kind of a guideline of questions that they were supposed to answer, and then they had to answer. They had to talk to at least 2 from each representative, and they had to give us kind of what they learned, what they were going to do with that moving forward. And so every student was responsible for that. And it worked out. It was actually very cool. The kids really enjoyed it. They were engaged. Nobody was like running around the corners not trying to talk to anybody. So it was very successful. In the future, so tomorrow we'll be delivering 15 Thanksgiving Day meals donated by Christ Church to the AGS students amongst the community. December 4th, we're doing a fast for night done by American Student Assistance for our students trying to continue that career readiness, career path. On December 14th, we have UTI Navigating Life After High School presentation. Again, just trying to get them to think about what life means after high school. I think a lot of these kids come in and they complain about the fact that they're not prepared. They don't know what a loan is. They don't know how to get a car loan. They don't know how to do all these things. So we're really taking it down to the basics for a lot of these kids and trying to teach them all these life skills that, are very important, as we know. And then December 21st, we will be doing a trivia night, academic trivia night. I think it's the Wednesday before Christmas break, but just breaking off into teams and having a little competitive academic trivia, again, for the relationship building, the kind of the community feel. Short-term results, so currently our average daily attendance rate is 84.4%, which I believe is very strong for a lot of our students. I think with the new administration and the new expectations, I expected a little pushback with some of the older students who were kind of had different expectations of what the alternative program was, but we've been very lucky so far with the majority of our kids buying in completely. 82% of our students are passing all of their classes, 7 are failing 1, and 6 are failing multiple classes. So we're continuing to work on and try and figure out what works best for each kid and make sure that success is the ultimate goal. We have 17 students who have come in on available Fridays. So obviously we don't have school some Fridays, or I have meetings Fridays, so it's not available every Friday, but the Fridays that we have been available, generally speaking, you'll come by and you'll see students in my classroom up on the 3rd floor doing work on a Friday when they don't have to. So that's, in my opinion, very cool. Areas to improve. I think this is an ongoing back to the original side about how this is an ongoing conversation moving forward with this program, but really is to determine whether it's a credit recovery program or an alternative education program. I think 2 administrations before myself, it was run strictly or more focused on a therapeutic, smaller program where they had about 20 kids, and it was really focused on the therapeutic needs of the kids. I think it has recently transformed into a credit recovery program over the past several years. And right now we're doing like a hybrid approach. However, I think that we are no longer truly a credit recovery program since we switched over to the block scheduling. Before the block scheduling, students were offered about 27.5 credits for the calendar year, and night school was getting about 47 to 52 credits, sometimes a little bit more than that. So you're almost doubling up on credits. Now, since they moved over to the block scheduling, students are receiving 41 credits per semester year, and we're offering really, in most cases, maybe a class, maybe 2 classes more. So that 16-year-old student who's coming in, who's had a tough freshman, sophomore year, they're no longer receiving, or they're no longer able to catch up in the manner that they once were. So we are staffed as a credit recovery, part-time students. When you're trying to run a traditional alternative high school, I think you need some level of full-time staff to be able to implement some of the difference that you had. And although our teachers are fantastic and they do the best job that they can, really is a long day for them. They're teaching all day with us, and then they're teaching all night, and they at times don't want to. At times it's difficult to really implement what you're trying to implement in that scenario. So I think that decision and discussion will be an ongoing discussion kind of moving forward, and based off of what, is in the best interest of the Plymouth Public Schools is the area that we'll go. And then obviously our own space, just because we get kicked out of our classrooms a lot, and we don't have classes, and we don't have places to put our stuff, and so that can be troublesome, obviously, at times when you're trying to deal with students and still give them the same education, because ultimately they are receiving the same diploma as Plymouth North and Plymouth South students, and so we're trying to at least come up with and be as honest to that curriculum and process as we can. And any questions?
Okay, Ms. Avatable, thank you very much. Questions? Mr. Sally?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm kind of curious to see, the number of students that have, enrolled under your curriculum, when they matriculate back into mainstream, what the success rate is for them going into 2 or 4 years, or military or vocational studies, more sort of hard evidence and numbers.
So trying to figure after they graduate us? Yeah, I think that would be.
Based on their experience with your
absolutely.
curriculum, based on what you've rolled out here, so like, to kind of parlay what Dennis had said, it's quantifiable, so seeing more hard numbers and the student success rates after they've gone through.
The goal, and one of our goals moving forward, and something I talked to Dr. Campbell about specifically, was making sure that every one of our kids had a long-term plan after high school. I worked for the alternative high school for a few years, and I could tell you that in the past, when students graduated, like, you spent so much time just trying to get them there that there was no long-term plan after that. And so when I had the opportunity to kind of hire an adjustment counselor or a guidance counselor, I chose the guidance counselor because I needed more support in that area. I come from a behavioral mental health background, so I feel like at times I can handle those, whereas she's kind of taken more of that long-term study plan. So I think that would be a great idea moving forward, and that is something that we will document. That at the end of this year, we will have set plans for each one of our students, and then we will follow up over the course of the year to try and figure out, success rate, or at least plans in the working force or college or armed forces, things of that nature.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I just wanted to say that I just love that you're putting the onus on the student. I think that is so critical, because if they don't want to be there, then they're not going to succeed, and what are they going to do after that? So making them responsible for calling you and just everything, I think it's a great philosophy to take, especially at that population who, may not want to be there, but you got to figure out what's going to keep them there.
I agree, and I think that all of our kids do want to be there to a certain extent.
Yeah.
They don't always understand why they want to be there or what it takes to finish. And that's really the goal that we're trying to focus on, is trying to understand that you don't just get, showing up's awesome. That's half the battle.
Yep.
And then it's the rest of those things, those coping skills, those communication skills, the goal setting, things that we as adults know that are supremely important. And that process of learning is almost more important than what you're learning sometimes, because if you learn how to learn, then ultimately I believe you can learn anything.
Yep.
So I think that's really the focus that we're trying to move forward with.
Mrs. Hunt?
I've had many comments about your program, and I want to congratulate you, because it's been nothing but positive feedback from parents that I've heard.
Thank you.
I have two quick questions. One is with your college and career fair and your, the life after high school. Two, don't forget about Mass Maritime Academy, because they do a lot with Plymouth Public Schools, and I know they also have the Follow the Voyage program, where the kids can learn about what it's like to be on the ship and that, and I do know that they're pretty accessible because of their location.
Okay.
And then the other thing is, I've had a couple parents over the last couple of years ask me, and I know you said, the kids receive the same diploma, why the graduation isn't integrated, and I do understand some kids aren't comfortable being with the general school community. But are they?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
because
They-
I know in the
Some
past.
choose not to.
Yeah,
No,
well, and I
so-
know in the past, Mr. Charpentier wasn't given the opportunity to give them their diplomas, even, when the kids So I don't know, I'm just.
Are you talking about the kids walking across this?
Walk. I know they have their own you had
No.
your
We
own
have a
graduation.
small graduation.
They do a celebration, but the graduation
Right,
is
their
this,
own, but
the
we
graduation is the
General
same.
population?
They're completely immersed.
There are
yeah.
several students every year there.
But they don't get their diploma from
They-
the principal?
They do.
They get it from the school committee.
From the school
chair.
committee.
Right.
You
but I
sign
know-
them and give
No,
it
I
to
understand that, but the principal's always.
No, it's signed by the principal and
I
the
think
chair
that
of the
was
school
the
committee.
the
Yeah,
comment
no.
that the parent
Oh.
had was.
No, I think
that principal
Kim,
of
the biggest thing
alternate
is,
school-
no, they're invited
Right.
as well. It's whether they
Right.
can make it or not. The
Yeah.
principal for Josh, for example, but it's the same exact protocol. And they've been, since Mr. Gobeal, they've been a part of both high schools'
I think the
graduations.
comment that the parent made to me
Yeah.
was that they had wished that
Yeah.
principal was up there on stage
Yeah.
handing, with
Shaking the
the school
Yeah.
committee shaking their hands. So that's basically what I was asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
The kids are a great part of it,
Although-
honestly.
Yeah.
Dr.
Yeah.
Campbell.
Just a comment, Kevin's only been on for a short period of time, since really the end of last year, in this particular role. As he said at the beginning, he's been with us for quite some time. Transitioning from the therapeutic counselor in the program to the administrator in charge, and he's done an outstanding job. I think what he's brought to that and his therapeutic background, and as you said, Miss Badger, really working on those life skills to get the students, as Kevin always says, he'll go to the end of the earth for any kid, but he's not going to go unless they're willing to work harder than him. And he lives and breathes that every day, and they're responding to the challenge, which is wonderful.
It's fantastic.
Mrs. Burgess.
Yep. I was just wondering, what is the ratio about for boys versus girls?
We have probably about 35 to 15 boys in favor of the girls, somewhere around those times. Primarily, it's more males.
Yeah, because there was a parent of a girl that was speaking with me about it, and that's what she was concerned about, how
Yeah.
her daughter would fit in.
I mean, I don't think there's any girl there that feels unsafe or feels like it's different. I mean, anybody can stop by. I think that the program is running in a manner that everybody feels like it's part of a program. They're part of a community that, we're all picking each other up and we're all working with each other. It's, but there is definitely more boys.
Well, I
No way
figured
around
that.
Yeah.
Other questions? Mr. Bailey?
I was a good presentation, but I was wondering about the impact that the charter school is going to have, because we were looking at it as a committee that the charter school was going to help us to size the program appropriately. Do you see it giving much relief? Because some of your comments was saying you didn't expect any of the kids to want to go to the charter school, which is the exact opposite of what we were expecting.
I personally think, in my experiences working with these kids for quite a period of time, I think that the charter schools' general population will be for the older population of kids that have tried maybe my program. Not every kid in my program is going to be successful, and there's a number of reasons for that. I think that, when you get to that age, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, the kids that I've worked with in the past and the kids that have asked about the charter school have generally been of an older demographic. And so I think the students that we're trying to intervene for, and the students that I primarily would love to intervene, are that younger population. I think the charter school, educating students who are up to 24, I think that makes it difficult for maybe a parent to feel comfortable sending a 15-year-old there. So I think that, I'm primarily focusing on a certain population. I think that they will serve a purpose. Like I said, not every student is going to be successful with us. We've had several dropouts in the program now. I think we started off with about 56. All of those 6 students were students that weren't successful in the program in the previous years. But now, instead of keeping them on the rolls, we've decided that there is an alternative for them, and based off the culture change that we're trying to increase or promote, I think that's the goal. So, like I said, Plymouth is a big district. We have 2 very big high schools there. To think that, Plymouth Public Schools isn't going to need a program because there's another small program in the town, I don't know.
Yeah, we always knew we were going to need a program.
Yeah.
We just didn't think it was going to have to be as big as it. We were expecting the charter school to take over, because the main reason why we were supporting the charter school, remember,
Sure.
was because we didn't think we could come up with the budget to do the program justice. So we were trying to leverage some funds that were already there, Otherwise, none of us would have supported it in the first place. We were doing it specifically because the funds were there and not here.
Right.
Dr. Campbell?
Regarding that, I think right now, I mean, currently, there is no program for students outside of our own program. So I think while that work is being done, outside by the charter, folks in the charter school, we may see an evolution over time of that, but I think it's hard to predict right now. I mean, currently there is no program to refer kids to, and certainly I think our goal is to, if the students are successful in our program, to maintain them within our schools. So we have those students that have been in the program for 1 to 3 years that we're really trying to work on. Where that is in a couple of years is, I think yet to be seen, but.
So we don't think we'll strongly encourage them to go to the other program?
No, I don't. I honestly don't think we would do that. I think we always, if we felt that students weren't being successful within our own schools, and they were dropping out of school, as we do now, I think that we'd be looking at making recommendations and suggestions for kids at that point.
Are we concerned that we're going to have, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Are we concerned that we're going to have the same staffing concerns that we had before? We couldn't keep up with the growth of the program, which was why we embraced the charter school approach.
Right. I think, as Kevin said, we've been doing a lot of credit recovery, which has really increased. The big shift in the last few years has been that credit recovery piece. So do I think that we'll need to look at that? Absolutely. But in terms of additional staff, I'm not sure. I think it would be a repurposing of what we're currently doing.
I think the biggest dilemma that we have is the number that Kevin demonstrated, that we have over 600 at-risk students in Plymouth, and we have a large number of students that are not being serviced in our program. And those are students that have dropped out. Those are students that are floundering in the community. Kevin's number is a small number. 45 students that we're addressing is a very, very small number of students. We were trying to go and address more and more students in the old program. The old program had on record up to 80, 90 students that were engaged and involved at varied levels. What Kevin has done is really try to pare that back and really focus in on students that are extremely engaged. They really want to be in the program. And I think one of the dilemmas that we've saw, and we've even seen, I would tell you that the program has been pared down from what it was in the years past, focusing on a strict population. The work that the charter school is going to have is to really identify the students that are at risk, have dropped out of this program. And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of students out there that we all feel a responsibility for. So I think that is where the golden nuggets are going to be for recruiting and retaining some of these students. So Kevin's program is probably not going to grow much more than what it is right now. So we're going to see 45, 50 students will be that number that we see.
And just in terms of enrollment for charter, as with all charter schools, much like Sturgis or Rising Tide, that's a lottery process. So one, it's not necessarily done by referral. It has to be, it's a third-party mailing option with that. So families need to be willing to have that information sent to them. That information is then considered by the families. The families apply, and then there's a lottery base. So that is a condition that's put in place by the Commonwealth, which this charter will be working through that process. But certainly, as students are not successful, as Kevin said, may not be successful within our program, and there are kids that have, as he's already mentioned, that would fit that condition. At that point, we can provide them options in terms of information, whether it's getting their equivalency degree or something else. We give them options through guidance and through Kevin's program at that point, in which they can then consider it and then go through that process like other families have to. But those are the conditions that we're held to.
Okay. Any final, Mrs. Hunt?
I know too, in the past, we've had discussions about even, reaching out to younger, like 8th grade. And
Middle school,
this will hopefully maybe, allow that opportunity to grow in that direction
I really think
instead.
that's, I think like anything that we do, Ms. Hunt, early intervention is key, right? Whether it's academic or behavioral. and emotional. Yeah.
Any other questions? Mr. Avitabile, thank you very much for your
Thank you very
presentation this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if the committee doesn't object, I think in deference to the people who've been waiting for such a long time, I would like to take 9.3 and 9.4 at this point, and then come back a few minutes later to the policy and job description. Any objection to that move?
No.
Seeing none? So this item on our agenda, the special town meeting Article 2 and the transfer of property is what we're going to be discussing right now. And I can tell the committee that at your request, as you all know, because you all received copies of it, we did write a letter to the Board of Selectmen, ostensibly telling them we had some concerns about safety. And we were able to get a meeting last Monday, and Mr. Bagley, Ms. Burgess, and myself are able to attend that meeting and listen to the experts speak about the design that you see up on the screen right now. And a good piece of the conversation we had was about safety. And I will tell you two salient points that I walked away with, and perhaps Mr. Bagley and Ms. Burgess would have additions. But one of the concerns that we expressed to the experts in our letter, and then again at the meeting, was the speed with which people were driving that corridor and into the school. And we were told by several people attending that meeting that roundabouts slow down traffic. So the speed issue, the experts are telling us, will be improved by having the roundabouts. The other safety issue that I walked away with, and again, Mrs. Burgess and Mr. Bailey may have others, is that we were concerned about students crossing that road with a roundabout right there. And they, again, said to us, actually, it ends up being safer than not having a roundabout. And the reason why they say that is when a student traverses that road, they only have to be concerned about half the road at a time because there's a rest area in the middle. So they'll move through one lane, get to that point, and then address the oncoming traffic from the other lane. So they don't have to rush across two lanes at one time. So those two safety issues were addressed. When I walked away from that meeting, I was feeling better about the improvement on safety. Now I'm going to go to Mr. Bagley and Mrs. Burgess. Mr. Bagley.
Yeah, so we had quite a few questions. As you saw the answers back to us, we followed up on some of the answers and pursued it. We were concerned that the traffic studies may not have taken into account things like, for example, 30 buses leaving at one time, the ability of the crossing guards to stop traffic going into a roundabout, which is kind of counter to how the roundabout should always be flowing. We wanted to make sure that they understood that we have this huge, a high number of buses trying to come out and navigate that at one time. We would need to stop traffic. So some of the things that I think we all agreed on, and there are some representatives here tonight, so keep me honest on some. We talked about increased signage. We talked about the installation of flashing lights, just additional ways to slow traffic down, approaching those rotaries and to alert people that the rotaries are there, especially if you're coming in the other way.
Not rotary, roundabout.
Roundabout, sorry. That was the cardinal sin. I apologize. It's a roundabout. Thank you. And then empowering the crossing guards to stop traffic through the roundabouts as required. So as we were talking about at dismissal, to be able to stop at special events. One of the things that wasn't considered, there was obviously, we're going to have a lot of extra traffic when we have sporting events, shows, graduations, et cetera. There's a lot of times when we'll have a large influx of people trying to cross the street, get into the facility. And so it was important to be able to have the crossing guards and allow them to stop the traffic as they saw fit. And then we started touching on the flow into the roundabout may be improved if everyone looks at that section of our driveway where we have that large island floating at the top. And there was discussion whether a better configuration there might help the flow into the roundabout and help to make the roundabout more successful. But all the discussions that we had and everything that we've been able to find about this shows that it would probably be a safer alternative if these other additives are taken. So the follow-up question I had coming out of that meeting was, what was the outcome of the wetlands discussion and reconstituting our flow into and out of the Rotary?
Could you just hold that question
Roundabout.
that Mrs. Burgess had regarding your participation at the meeting? Anything you want to add to our
Well,
presentation?
the only thing is that they said that we would probably need 2 crossing guards rather than 1 at that point. So that would be a change. Otherwise, I think he covered it. Yeah.
Dr. Maestas.
So I kind of want to get up and show you exactly what we're talking about in reference to wetland.
Please do.
Because, so I want to just highlight exactly on this diagram where the wetland is. Let me grab this mic.
That handheld.
Is it still, Brian, still good? Check, 1, 2. All right, so if we take a look at the diagram, we notice that right at the north entrance, we have this little delineated section right in here that's outlined in red. When we built north, this section was determined to be wetland, because what happened was it was a drainage area, so it was used for drainage from the campus and off of Overy Street. Apparently the drain got plugged, and that buildup of water created what the engineers were telling us was a wetland. So the meeting that we had last week, there was some indication that this property may not actually be wetland. So what we are doing right now, and I have consulted with Lee Hartman with the planning department, and also Tom Finnegan, our owner's project manager from North. They went through the plans of North and retrieved the engineering data, and also we're going to meet with Lee Hartman in the next few days to actually go back and see if there's some level of environmental study that can be done to this area in the next couple of weeks to determine if this is actually wetland. Now, once again, our idea with this project, North High School, was we had 4 tennis courts, and we really needed this space because we wanted to have a 5th tennis court. Now that we don't have the space, we would relook at this and possibly reshape the traffic configuration coming into the campus. Because those of you that are on the North High School campus going in at busy times, you'll notice that it is very congested. And if there was a way to reutilize this property, this whole stretch of property here is school property. As a matter of fact, this section right here is the only buildable section on the entire campus. So there's a possibility that we could, integrate the entrance of the school a little bit easier, or actually access the school campus a little bit easier if we did have access to this wetland piece. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at it. As soon as I get the information, I will share it with the school committee, so you can actually get a determination if that is buildable or not. So right now, that's where we are. The information, I shared it this morning. By this afternoon, we had all the plans over to Lee Hartman's office. So we'll be working on this in the next week or so.
And it's important also because, as Dr. Campbell just reminded me, so we were talking about the biggest safety concern that we have. One of the biggest safety concerns we had were the kids crossing from the county parking lot. And some will cross a little further down the street, but most of them cross right there from the hospital entrance. If this isn't wetlands, this large section of property that Dr. Maestas just pointed out isn't wetlands, we may be able to squeeze some additional parking into there and take some of the load off of the kids having to come across. We're not going to get 150 parking spots in there, that's for sure. So you're still going to have a number of kids that have to cross. There's no getting around it. But you can reduce the number, therefore reduce the risk a little bit. So that answer back on the wetlands is pretty important towards the safety of the children.
Just one other clarification. This parking lot, we negotiated to use this parking lot for overflow because, as you know, we have students that, young drivers, they get their licenses, they have the desire to drive. We've accommodated them on the North High School parking lot. The problem is there's still not enough room even at the beginning of the school year. So what we did is we have an agreement with the Plymouth County that this lot, which is about 65 spaces, students use that. So they pay a fee. The fee goes to the county. So the county makes a little bit of money on this. So what happens is the fee goes to the county, but the issue that Mr. Begley has brought up is the accessibility to the campus. So what we had in the past is and we do currently, is we have a crossing guard at the entrance to North. And this is really to just break traffic up on key times in the morning. But what we did is we got permission from the town to actually put a crossing, an authorized crosswalk closer to the parking lot so students could actually cross here. What was happening is students weren't going all the way to this side of the entrance, and they were just running across the street. So we talked to the police department, and we got permission through the town to actually put a crosswalk here, and it would give kids access right to this sidewalk. There is no sidewalk on this side here at all. So what kids would have to do is they would have to go to the crosswalk and then get to the sidewalk. So right now there is a crosswalk here. So I think all these issues were brought up and presented with the meeting that we had, and I think there is some level of understanding that it's a dynamic situation around the campus.
And that crosswalk doesn't have an island in the middle of it,
No, it
like
doesn't.
the ones that are better engineered around the roundabout. They have the island in the middle, so like they were saying, you can get halfway and then go the other half. That one does not. So that is a traffic concern right there leading into the roundabout and obviously coming out of the roundabout.
There was one part of our Plymouth North High School situation that really could not be resolved at our discussion the other morning, and that's why this wetland thing becomes more important, because that is that how many buses have to leave at the same time? 30 buses must leave at the same time in order to keep on schedule for the other schools they have to pick up. And so the concern there is, with 30 buses coming out at the same time, traffic will have to stop. And also, we had concerns that going in the morning, traffic slows down and could even back up onto Aubrey Street. However, if that wetland becomes available, we'll have more places for that traffic to queue up and not back out onto the road. So that wetland area becomes extra important than just parking. Committee members.
I just have two quick questions. So, if that land right there near the tennis courts is not conservation land or wetland, whatever it is, who pays for that? Is that going to be part of the project?
Well, I think there is a desire to make it safer. We don't have a direct answer as to who would cover the cost of that remediation. There was a great deal of interest by the Massachusetts Department of Transportation in making that a safer avenue. So we have not, delineated if it's doable. I think once we determine if it's buildable, if it's usable, then we will have the conversation as to what would need to happen in order for us to move forward. And of course, we'd have to have an engineered traffic study and traffic design as to how we can make that the most optimum entry and exit to the campus. Because right now, you have to understand that when Plymouth North was built, Beth Israel Deaconess changed hands. They also built an additional part of their campus, and the traffic emergency entrance was changed. So that whole corridor in the last 2 years has changed dramatically. So it is busy, and also we also indicated that courthouse holds traffic court on Thursdays, and the Thursday backup onto South Street is significant.
And that kind of goes into my next question. So, with the discussion that you all had, and I know you talk, I'm sure, about how far backed up it's going to be. Has anybody, since that discussion, if we are allowed to stop traffic for the 30 buses, has anybody then followed up with BID Plymouth? I would be concerned. I'm no health expert or anything, but if you're stopping that traffic for 30 buses and you have an emergency and everyone's backed up to Route 3, I don't know, that to me would be a health and safety issue for them, not just for us.
So I have a comment to that. Keep in mind that we have 30 buses staged. It's not
Yes.
30 buses that exit.
Yes.
We have some buses that go down Nook
And the
Road.
other- Yes.
Okay, and it's a handful. I don't know exactly how many, but one of the things that we did discuss is phased exit. So you would have maybe 5 buses at a time, 6 buses at a time, not delay, and with the interest of keeping that flow.
Yeah, yeah.
So try to stagger it but just do it as expeditiously as possible. So I think we have not engaged with Beth Israel, but again, I think that's a concern. I think our best approach in the meeting is how do we keep the flow on that rotary as synchronous as possible, because if buses take it over, it will stop it down. It'll just stop it. So I think the approach is how do we make it as fluid as possible? And like I mentioned at the close of the meeting, the first month of school is going to be a little bit tricky because everyone, especially new people driving down that road, negotiating a roundabout can be, the first time they do it, could be a little bit tricky. But, one of the things that is positive around this move is there are no left-hand turns.
Yeah, it's true.
There are absolutely, and I'm not sure how many of you, I did a study one time I read a book about a study on FedEx, and FedEx does not allow,
Yep.
they do not allow left-hand turns because it's the accident-causing situation.
Mrs. Trishelli.
Yeah, I can sort of hinge on what Ms. Badger was saying in terms of the financial commitments. I mean, we had Arthur Martron here last meeting, and it seems like we have some expenditures and we have some projects we need. We have elementary schools that need new parking lots and need new roofs, and we're talking about possibly building a parking lot to accommodate a project. To me, that the ends are too frayed. And if we're going to go through this with the town regarding the safety of the children, we need something written from them before we take this vote. So again, putting the cart before the horse, I think this is sort of a disservice to town, the municipality. They voted this down already. A big part of our strategic plan, I know, with school committee is to be on the road, which we've done. I hear from parents that this is a major safety concern. 6.2 million is a great grant, yes, but there are other appropriations that can be looked at conducive to getting this money, and I think that the town needs to do some more homework, because this, to me, now we're looking at tapping in and building a new parking lot. We're talking about the safety of kids, getting new crossing guards. We need some more information. We need something in writing to guarantee those contingencies based on this plan.
Mrs. Burgess.
It hasn't come up, but it was talked about, too, about the parents that bring their kids that are going to be late, almost late, trying to get them in on time, rushing to the front door to let them out. So I don't know how that's going to affect the roundabout. It should slow them down a little, but really?
That was why we were talking about the mini roundabout
Yeah.
in our parking lot. If they reconfigured our entrance there, should help with that issue also. Just like, so we use a mini roundabout at Plymouth South High School in the brand-new parking lot. We utilize a mini roundabout. So it's important that I think the public understands that the school committee was never against the concept of roundabouts. It was the placement of this particular roundabout raised a lot of unique safety concerns.
Mrs. Hull.
So all the studies that need to be done for the wetlands, is that going to be done before town meeting? Because I think that, I'm not willing to support it unless the only way that I can think of would be is if there was another entrance and it would have to be guaranteed and in writing.
Dr. Maestas.
Our best hope is that we can get information before town meeting. I don't think there'll be any possible way at all to have any engineering done, but I think at least we'd have a determination as to if it's usable or not. But again, we're going to have to go down the road. I just sent the information to the planning department today to start the process of looking at what we can do and what's available, and what reports we have that actually identifies it as a wetland property.
Ms. Badger.
So I have a question, but I'm going to just stand up and ask it. So if I am talking about a mini rotary, is the mini rotary like this?
No
Or are we
rotary.
there.
talking about
Roundabout.
Roundabout.
Roundabout, no rotary.
Or I mean, sorry, roundabout. I'm just wondering where it would be. So is it,
Yeah, you can come up.
We know the difference.
Yeah, one's,
They're just
I
misusing
know
the
it, I'm
term.
sorry.
They know
I
the
mean
difference.
roundabout. Same thing.
we're good.
I get it. I just want to know where it would be.
Good evening, Tony
Good evening.
Provenzano,
Wait,
Vice
she didn't
Chairman of the
finish
Board of
asking the
Selectmen.
question, I don't think.
Yeah.
Hold
Yeah.
on,
I don't
sure.
think Ms. Badger finished.
I'm just wondering where it would be. So if we're gonna control the traffic, whatever happens here, if we don't have, if we're not gonna use this rotary, but we're gonna reconstruct it, or roundabout, sorry, are we talking about a little roundabout that feeds into this bigger roundabout?
So let me kind of clarify that. So the roundabout, this roundabout will not move at all. This is the original design, okay?
Yes.
And this is only a discussion that was a side discussion on how to make the campus safer, more accessible, and help with the flow. Just like South High School has, they have a small roundabout that allows multiple areas to exit and enter. And there's discussion that in this space here, there may be an opportunity to actually facilitate that through a small roundabout on the property. So that was the discussion.
Okay.
Again, this is up to engineers to take a look at what would be the best possible solution to alleviate I think that the biggest problem that we have is Nook Road is not a popular exit.
Right.
And this is the most accessible exit to get to pretty much anywhere you want to get.
Thank you. I was thinking you were talking about a little tiny roundabout, and like a smaller one, and then you're going to go into another one automatically, and I was just, wasn't working for me. Thank you.
Before Selectman Provenzano gets the microphone, I just want to tell the committee that the transportation experts told us that if we do nothing to this road, we maintain a high level of safety risk. These proposals are aimed at reducing the safety risk. If we leave it alone, traffic will travel at a faster rate of speed as it is right now that we've all observed and fly into that school.
Right.
Selectman Provenzano.
No, thank you, Dr. Sorensen. And like you, I am not a traffic engineer, but I play one on town meeting floor. You're precisely correct. This design is intended to enhance safety. Right now, what you have is a series of unsafe conditions, including having students cross in a crosswalk that is 100 yards away from your main entrance, that is being monitored by a crossing guard 100 yards away. This design will put sidewalks from that parking lot, direct them up to the much safer crossing point at the roundabout, which, as you have pointed out, is safer because it allows the pedestrian to only contend with one direction of traffic at a time, is designed to slow traffic down by channeling the traffic down into a narrower area, forcing it to turn because it aims you into the center island, forcing you to go around it, has to slow you down. The other point that I think is extremely important is that this intersection will have to be frozen for a period of time to allow those buses to get out, because your coordinated bus system requires these buses not to be delayed. But even if it were all 30 that were leaving at the same time, and even if it took 5 seconds for that single bus to go around that rotary, you're talking about 150 seconds. Talking about 2.5 minutes. That's a very long light. It may, at the beginning, take 2 crossing guards to freeze that intersection. Once people get used to it, you may be able to freeze the intersection with simply 1. But I think you're absolutely right. To start, it's going to take people on either end to freeze the intersection. On the issue of BID, the roadway will be designed wider. This roadway will comply with what we call the Complete Streets program, which is intended to allow all users of a roadway to safely maneuver. Pedestrian, you'll notice the little icon down at the bottom showing pedestrian, cyclist, motorist, all using the roadway safely. You'll notice that there is a green strip along some of these sidewalks. The sidewalk is not right up against the paved surface. There's a little buffer area, brings the people in. It's safer. Because of that extra width, the vehicular traffic is able to separate to allow emergency vehicles to get through, which motorists will do. They will yield to emergency vehicles. So Brewster Ambulance is on board with this. From a planning standpoint, it also allows us to have a roadway which, because there's a rotary in front of the school and not a signal, which is a far more dangerous intersection configuration, it allows us to maintain the character of Obery Street from the school forward in a more rural setting, which is what we want, what the town planners and what the planning process for this roadway, which has been in place for a dozen years, calls for.
Okay, Mr. Bailey.
Yeah, the dozen years didn't include plans for a roundabout, though, so the discussion has been, it's been a year or two, right?
No. The roundabouts have been part of this pretty early on.
Well, so,
The second roundabout was added later, but the one in front of your school has been there since almost the get-go.
okay, so,
School wasn't either.
Not the first.
Well, the school- there's always been a school here.
not quite
Was
sure
not
how
there in
that's the case since
2002.
there was no school there, and the school, so anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is whether it's signaled or whether the town decides to do roundabouts, it doesn't really matter. The question we have is one of safety.
Correct.
And it could be either choice. We're not pretending to be traffic engineers.
Correct.
We didn't pretend to be them on the floor of town meeting. What we're trying to do is point out safety concerns that we've had. And we've
Correct.
discussed it. The other day was a very productive meeting, I felt. Everything I've read and found out about and that I've shared with the rest of the committee would lead to believe that the roundabout would be a very good approach there. But with the additions that we talked about.
Flashing beacons.
So, for example, there was, in the original plan that was in front of town meeting, there were no flashing lights.
Right.
There was not additional signage.
Right.
There was discussion about how we were going to handle the crosswalk situation where it's further down the street. We want to encourage it to come up. There was discussion about having the 2 crossing guards because, as was mentioned by the traffic engineer, one crossing guard wouldn't be adequate because he would be directing traffic on an other side of that roundabout.
Correct.
And the people on the other side would not see what he
Correct.
was
So
doing.
you'd have to freeze that traffic, correct?
You would have to have it on both sides. The other part was the traffic engineer was not aware that we stopped traffic. So if you remember,
Correct.
Chief Bolteri was there
Right.
and informed them that, yes, we do that today.
Correct.
We stop traffic today and traffic backs up today. That's a problem now.
Right.
The problem is with roundabouts, and the expert's back there, so he can help too, I think. With the roundabouts, you're not supposed to stop traffic. That's the whole point, is you keep it moving, keep the flow going. That's why there's no signals where an emergency vehicles could change the signal.
Correct.
There is no signal to change. It's supposed to just keep moving.
Correct.
So we wanted to make sure that we had the permission of the experts to stop traffic if we need it. And we wanted to make sure that those crossing guards had the authority to do that stopping.
Sure.
So we were told during the meeting that it's a shame the meeting wasn't a public meeting, because then we wouldn't be having this discussion now, 'cause we
Right,
could just
right.
watch the videotape. But during that discussion, there were these points that were made that I think we need to document, and we need to find out about the wetlands situation. Because even if we can only get 15 parking spots or 20 parking spots, it's 20 less than you have across the street.
You're right.
So you're not removing the situation, but you're improving the situation. So the sooner you can, maybe you can help with getting an answer to that and speeding that process up.
I'll do whatever I can, but I'll tell you,
Obvious.
the most interesting part of the conversation is when the focus moved from the roadway onto your campus, and these traffic engineers all of a sudden are starting to do their mental calculations on how your configuration
Well,
is.
you remember the guys from Jacobs lit up when they
Oh, yeah?
saw that, because they agreed during this meeting this was a bad situation.
Oh, yeah.
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 And that this would have a greater chance of success. So we think that this is the right way to go, and they think it'll have a better chance of success if this situation was reconstituted. I'm sorry.
I'm just holding it for you.
Thank you. If this would be reconstituted. So if this was reconfigured, it would be a better flow into here, making this more successful. So the representative from Massachusetts Department of Transportation said that she had seen many roundabouts in the last few years. She's
Right, many.
overseeing the creation of many roundabouts in the last few years. So anything that would improve this flow would make that project successful. So that's how we got off onto that whole conversation and why the wetlands discussion is so important. But it's also important to note that the representative from Massachusetts Department of Transportation said that there were no examples of a school and/or a hospital feeding directly into the roundabout. The examples that are provided are of a school zone. So the school zone would be like the entire street, not feeding directly into the roundabout. So that was an added concern. So I think these things are correct, and it's a better process.
Well, that wasn't quite,
But, we need to be aware that we'll be like blazing the trails on this as far as a school safety situation. And those are decisions more for the town, as far as whether that's the correct configuration for that location, whether it should be a signal or the roundabout. That's more for the town, that's not for us. Our concern is safety. So the important parts that we heard the other day, the three of us when we were there, was there's no example of this happening anywhere else today, even with the increased construction of these roundabouts. So we will be blazing new trails here as far as feeding a hospital, and a major hospital too, mind you, a major hospital and a high school, and it's the largest of the two high schools, funneling into this roundabout. So that's the realistic concerns that we had. And I think the traffic guys came up with answers that we could all live with. But we do need more answers on that wetlands.
Yeah. Yes. I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Sam Butterfield, former member of the Board of Selectmen. He's a resident of Obery School.
And not a traffic engineer.
And not
Not a traffic engineer.
Not an expert in anything, really.
Sorry, I thought you were introduced the other day as a traffic engineer.
No.
No, sorry for the confusion. Thank you. I just wanted to try and address a couple of points quickly, and just to offer some statistics to support some of the things you've been talking about in terms of safety. Whether or not there is a study that's been done for this particular intersection of uses, the statistics are pretty overwhelming for the improvement that you get from a roundabout versus a signalized intersection or a double stop sign, a two-way stop sign intersection. It's like 82% fewer accidents.
Serious accidents.
Serious
Serious
accidents.
accidents.
And 80 for stop sign over stop sign intersections, and maybe it's I think it's 82% or 84%. I get the number. It's close anyway. Also for improvement over signalized intersections. In other words, traffic lights. So it's taking a situation that we have now, which everybody knows is bad and hazardous, not only for students, but for those of us who drive the street every day. And it's making it better, significantly better. So that needs to be kept in mind. And emergency vehicles, another point is going to add about that is that the road bed is going to be wider here than it is now, because you'll have bike lanes on each side as well. So in addition to the fact that buses and everyone has to yield to the emergency vehicles anyway, you'll have more room for vehicles to pull off to the side. So it actually makes the situation better in that respect as well. And you don't have the chance in roundabouts, I don't believe, for that sort of gridlock situation that you sometimes get at four-way intersections. The only other point I was going to add is to just ask that or the comment that this is also about the other improvements that are going to be made on the street, which include the landscaping and lighting, sidewalks on both sides of the street, whereas now it's mostly just on one side, utility improvements and so forth. All of those things are part of this project, which is right now funded for 100% construction under the TIF program. Thank you. So, and if we don't utilize that funding now, then we have to put any improvements off realistically for another 5 or 6 years. But at best, maybe at that time we'll be able to get more grant funding, but maybe not. And in which case we'll be looking at a much more expensive project on the town's dime, without the help of the state, at a 5% per year increase in construction costs. So it's important from that standpoint as well. So that just means another 5 years. Aside from the cost, it means another 5 years of going without addressing the situation. So I think the school plays, obviously, to town meeting, your support or lack thereof is critical to getting this approved. And so I hope that you do give it your support. And it's, as a neighbor as well, I'm asking on behalf of the neighborhood that you sort of help us to absorb the shock, if you will, of all of that growth that has occurred so rapidly in the past 10 years. I mean, if you look at these plans on the wall, you kind of notice that everything to the left of the high school intersection is all pretty filled up right now. Mm-hmm. That used to be all green 10 years ago. And it's overwhelming. And, we're not even including the kind of brown spot down in the lower left, which is now under construction. Mm-hmm. So, we have to address it. And again, on behalf of the neighborhood, and I think on behalf of the town, and I will say on behalf of the students and so forth who use everybody who uses this roadway, say that your support is really important, and I hope that you can give that to us at town meeting.
One statistic that hasn't come out here this evening is that the traffic experts told us, and somebody should correct me on the numbers if I get them wrong, that they've counted first of all, the roundabouts are planned to handle 1,400 cars a day without problem. And the count they're dealing with now here is about 900 cars. I think what's missing in that, by the way, of the 1,400 cars, a good chunk of them occur within a 20-minute period.
Right, no, I understand. I think the numbers we were talking about were per hour, not per day.
Per hour, that's right, per hour. But a good chunk of them occur in a 10-minute period.
Clearly, that intersection creates a challenge in that afternoon and morning time, which is a very heavy use. So for every school day. But the question is, what intersection configuration would be superior to the design that's presented? A four-way stop certainly won't do it. And a signalized stop would be considerably lacking in the safety department compared to this. People cross against the light. You can't cross against a roundabout. People speed up to go through a light. You can't speed up to go through the roundabout. So those very two important safety features, in the opinion,
You've seen our teenage
I
drivers.
just was thinking that same.
well, you were describing the parents who were coming in on two wheels. And, you know, and I heard you, and you're absolutely right. Even during not the rush times. It's the end of the rush time when the real rush begins. Let's get in before the bell rings. And you have the same child who's trying to cross that street because they're late, and the parent who's speeding in and texting, perhaps, because they're late. You simply have to pay attention going through that roundabout, and you have to slow down.
And you can even enhance the effect of slowing cars down by, as I mentioned, landscaping. You can fill that island with trees and shrubs and signage and so forth, so that there's a real clear physical, barrier ahead of you. You better slow down. And just to further your point, Dr. Sorensen, about the traffic counts, he did say too that this, if it's constructed, will handle growth for many years to come. In other words, there's a lot of excess capacity as it sits right now, but it'll have the ability to handle any a lot of future growth. So,
Mr. Badger.
With the new relevations that were realized at this meeting for the traffic engineer and the discussions that came up, has there been discussion with the state about going to them and saying, okay, so here's what's happened. We've had a lot of growth on this street in the last 10 years. I mean, you used to be trees and now there's tons of buildings and they're in and out all day during the day. To see if there's potential that, they'll give us another 6 months or another 5 months to keep that grant money, because so much has changed in this area and so many things are, coming up. Inside right now, I couldn't tell you that I would vote for this, only because I don't know about this patch of land. Are we gonna make it safer for the students to cross, or, I don't know. So that's my question.
So I'll first, two things. This process has been underway for 12 years, and it was underway with the understanding that this was a growth corridor.
Yeah.
It was to plan and cope with the growth, not only as it has manifested itself, as we believed it would manifest itself, and as we expect it to manifest itself in the future. So this is a future-oriented plan.
But I don't think that it's talking about the North High School that we have right there. What we have right there in the current parking situation was not part of the plan. So that is my concern.
Okay. So there are conditions on your campus that didn't exist. There was a school there,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
we'll all agree on that one.
But it was
Yes,
completely
There's a
different.
school there, and the population of the
Totally
school may
different.
not be as high as it is today, and the parking configurations might not be as high as they are today.
There were fields there where
Huge
now you have
fields.
roads. When you came in, those were all baseball fields.
Yeah, it was all baseball.
There was no, you got halfway
Totally
down what
different.
we're looking at right now before you ever had to decide about making turns or anything else.
Right.
It's a completely different configuration.
Yeah, it's very different.
I'm lost. What is this?
Mrs. Burgess.
Yeah, just to throw something in, the hospital too, I don't know
Correct.
whether they've been talked to or not, but.
Well, they have been.
But in the, beginning in the morning, like there's 8 o'clock, there's all kinds of people that are going for tests and.
Correct.
And other services that are, not just visitors to the hospital, to patients, but for their own tests. There's tons of them that go every day in and out and in and out. And so I just wondered if that's been taken into consideration. And of course, you've got the new building down there, and they all open at 8 o'clock to start everything.
Right. Again, I'm not a traffic engineer, but there have been counts made along the way. It's not like counts were made 12 years ago and they stopped. There have been counts made, I think, even within the last year.
Oh, yeah. No, they've done several.
So they're well aware of the loads that these roads handle.
I thought he said the other day that the last numbers he had was from 2011.
He said that, I asked a question. I asked a question specifically if they can give us some data on how the traffic numbers have gone from, 10 years ago to now.
But they've looked at specific intersections. For example, they looked, within the past couple of years, I believe they've done several on the hospital, not the hospital, the registry.
Right.
Registry of Deeds intersection, yeah.
Yeah, they actually shared information that the numbers had gone down. But that's why I asked, is there information on a more recent evaluation of that traffic, you know? Again, it's, summer's different than school year, school day.
Right.
Yeah, summer's different.
But it has to be an average by month almost.
Is there any new information to add to this discussion at this point from anybody?
There seems to be a sense of urgency with the grant.
Absolutely.
Is it a Mass Works grant?
Absolutely. It's not a MassWorks grant, it's a TIF. So we are at 14 different communities in the Old Colony Planning Group, including Brockton, which would love to grab this money to
Is it contingent to
reconfigure
having
Main
a
Street.
roundabout, though, to get the money?
Yes. This plan is at 100%.
I think the roundabout's good. From everything that we've gathered.
It just
it's
seems
the
to be,
better.
like I said, some frayed ends. So for us, we need to find some clarity with the wetlands. And now we're looking at building potentially another mini rotary within the school and potentially another parking lot.
Well,
So
again-
we have to look at the fiduciary responsibility that the school committee has.
Okay.
As I said, with Arthur Montran sitting here 2 weeks ago, or at our last meeting, there is other things that we have on our plate as well. So this, and I understand the sense of urgency, I understand with respect to the town and the community, obviously, we want this area to be better, but our ultimate goal is to take in every consideration for the safety of those students. I talk to parents, I hear from parents, that's my role, that's why I sit here. I get the importance, and the 6.2 million is, it's a big tag, it's great. But we need some more clarity, and I think once we receive written word about some of the contingencies that we needed, and also get some more information back on the wetland for potential for a parking lot, then we can move forward
Well,
comfortably with my perspective on it with a vote.
it's a $5.3 million TIF grant, which will go to another community if we don't take it,
What's the timeline on that?
if we don't take it by January
January what?
1st.
The one,
Requires town meeting action.
Right.
We have a town meeting
already
on
voted, though,
December 6th.
but the warrant was open, so now they're going to vote again at special town meeting.
Correct.
There's nothing to prevent, by the way, to the pursuing the improvements through, the wetland assessment and engineering a roadway or additional parking in that area. All of that is stuff that can be, pursued after this project is
In
done.
the
or
scope
even-
of that-
Or even during
In
it.
the scope of that price tag under that grant, not out of the school committee budget.
Because these are public roads, and you're talking about roadways that are not
Yeah, they're not
public
going to
road.
do.
They're on your property.
Right, they're not going to do off, yeah.
They actually said the other day that they would consider that. The two representatives from Jacob said that there might be remediation money because
Not as part of this.
because it would directly add to the success of that roundabout. And they both said that the other day, and I believe the MassDOT representative also said she agreed with that. So now it's a question of, can they make that happen? Is that going to be applicable? When they go back and check their checklist of what makes it fall into being acceptable or not, is that project going to be acceptable or not? And that's where the questions are coming from, is as soon as we know what's going on with this section and how to reconfigure this top part and improve the flow into and out of the roundabout, the project will be more successful. You're guaranteeing your project's going to be more successful, and it's not going to be a traffic nightmare that's created.
But the
But
problem
if we don't
is
get town
if it
meeting
doesn't,
action on December 6th, there is no project.
it's going to stay in a worse condition for the next 5, maybe 10 years. It's going to get worse and worse
Yeah,
instead of mitigating it now and working on getting it perfect later.
Well, that's why I'm saying that the powers to be should be checking with MassDOT or whoever and get the answer to whether or not that can be reconfigured or not. And if it can't be reconfigured, then what's the impact to safety and other concerns we have? As far as the rest of the roundabout, speaking just for myself personally, I was happy with the answers I got. I've done a lot of research. Everybody laughs that we're trying to be traffic engineers, But I'll tell you what, I think we're elected to check and to do our homework. As you pointed out to us, you seem to think we don't do our homework. Well, we do. We take that very seriously. We take the safety of the children at that campus very seriously and the people that visit that campus very seriously. So I think in order to make this project successful, you need to answer the questions that we have as far as the wetlands go. I don't know who you have to go to get those answers, but I think you're the right person to do it because you're so closely connected to this project. The last few weeks, you're all over the place. So push it, and the selectmen are responsible for the highways anyway. So find out who can do that and get us an answer ASAP so that we can make the decision we're all talking about. As far as long-term, if the answer comes back and they say that, well, we can't make that part of this project, so you're not going to kill the whole project. But somebody has to make note of the fact that that was a major concern.
Right.
We
Oh,
noted it as a
absolutely.
major
Yeah,
concern.
yeah.
So when it becomes a major impact and everybody starts screaming and yelling, it's not coming out of
No,
our
it's-
budget to try to fix a problem that we alerted people to and kind of backed us up against the wall to agree to. I think you have to find out what's the status of that area, then document it. And then all the other things that we talked about, the flashing lights, the signage, the crosswalks, all that needs to also be documented so that we all are agreeing that this is the design we're agreeing to as it pertains to the safety of the schools. As far as traffic flow across that whole stretch, that's the town's responsibility. I think we're probably going to adversely affect that flow, but that's your problem. Our problem is safety.
Well, as I've tried to say, as is ours, and we are attempting to make a safer
As is
condition.
yours, but you didn't do all the research that you guys thought you did. So you thought it was a slam dunk. It was not a slam dunk. When we got in front of the engineers, we actually found out they didn't know about the bus situation. They didn't know about the kids, and they didn't know about a lot of other stuff. And I'm sorry, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
I think that we're repeating some of the points that we've made.
Yes,
If I may just
apologize.
add one more-
First time in 12 years that I've lost my temper, and I apologize. I just don't like some of the comments that were made. I don't like that we were put on the spot. And I think that we do our homework, and we do take our job very seriously, and I hope you know that now.
And they didn't respond to us.
Okay.
And they didn't
And
respond.
just
to
one
us.
more
Mr. Butterfield.
bit of additional information. The wetlands determination, just so we're clear, as it stands right now, it's designated as a wetland, which is protected.
Right, that's why we only have 4 tennis courts there,
Right,
because we
as you-
couldn't
as
build
you
a
know.
5th.
And that takes some time to get that reclassified. So, and it takes some convincing of the DEP to do that. And that's I'm just saying that's a lengthy process. So we don't expect that we'll be able to, or that the town will be able, I'm not saying, I'm not the town. I'm just here, like you said, as a neighbor, and I did used to get involved in this kind of engineering work, but anyway, the DEP process is lengthy, and so we're probably looking at a couple of years of noodling around with that issue before it's resolved.
Dr. Mayes.
Just one piece regarding the wetland. I think one of the things that we're trying to determine is exactly where did the determination come from as to is it a wetland?
It comes from an engineer who goes out into the
Yeah.
field and flags it with because of the plant
Yeah,
species.
and I understand that. I think when we had the project detailed and the engineering was put forth, the engineers, I asked the engineers to get me information as to how did they determine that it was a wetland.
Right.
And what they're telling me is that they heard it was wetland, or well, who told you that? So I'm looking for documentation. I understand the engineering aspects of what it takes to determine it and what it takes to get out of being a wetland.
Right.
But we're trying to find out as from the beginning of the project, how did it get determined as wetland, and why did we change our direction? So that's what we're trying to discover at
I
this
think
point.
they were making a distinction between a wetland that was occurring because of a engineering's a drainage structure that failed as opposed to a natural
Absolutely.
wetland, and that may make all the difference.
We're trying to figure that out.
Right,
Which
there you go.
Right.
Mr. Morgan?
Well, I'd like to just point out that as of right now, we have this as an action item to vote.
Actually, may I correct that? I'm going to tell you that, as I see it, 9.3 is for information, 9.4 is the action item.
Okay.
Well, both say action after it.
I know, but I think it should be in the first, because there's no action to hear. This is information. The action item is the next item,
Right.
which is to transfer the property.
The concern from a couple of members is they want more time, but as the selectman states that they're up against the clock, special town meeting's December 6th. Our next board meeting or committee meeting is December 4th. So I don't know if we really want to delay our vote to December 4th. I mean, it's up to the will of the committee, but it's,
Mr. Morgan, I would say, I don't see that we're going to have any more information between now and town meeting.
I think, I
That's
tend to agree.
realistically correct.
So we have what we're going to have tonight.
So I think we make any motions conditional,
Yeah.
based on the safety improvements that we've agreed to, and have it documented our concerns about the entranceway into the high school. Because they're not going to have the information.
I'm gonna have to bounce this legally, because you're suggesting that we make a motion to transfer property that's conditional upon a future decision.
Yeah, that's
a good point.
If I could just clarify, I think, I'm not sure if Mr. Begley is suggesting that the traffic light condition, the warning light condition be a part of the project, signage be part of the project, the indication that the possibility of adding another traffic crossing guard would be considered. So I think those are the items that he's talking about. I'm not sure that you were including
Wetland?
the delineation of the wetland.
Yeah, those things specifically, I
Yes.
think we should make
Okay.
conditional
That
on
makes-
any, so if we were to take a vote prior to transferring of the property, just to say whether or not we support in theory the concept of the project, but with these conditions that have been agreed to with the town.
Sure.
During that meeting, the town agreed to everything that I listed off. And the additions being that noted that we have concerns about the entrance, so that the inflow and outflow of traffic out of the school campus, and that you're going to address it or look into it, or however we want to word that. Because I just have a feeling that 2 years down the road, everybody's going, and the traffic's backed up all the way out to the 2 feeders, and everyone's going to, have collective amnesia. So I think it's good to have it documented that,
I agree with that. I want to say to you that since the experts have told us that the road is unsafe and can be made safer through these improvements, if we don't make these improvements and a fatality occurs, it's on us. The experts are telling us that we can make this road safer for our students. I think that's a responsibility that we have.
it's a reverse also. If we put in the roundabout and it does create an unintended consequence of an accident,
It's not, the reverse does not hold true, because the experts have told us that this is based on data, research, this is a safer setup.
correct.
Now, anything could happen, but if we disregard the advice of the experts to make something safer for our students, I feel the responsibility is huge if we disregard that.
And I agree with that. I'm agreeing. I'm just saying the experts also admitted that this intersection had elements to it that there is no precedent to.
That is true.
So it could just as easily be creating an unintended consequences of creating a worse situation in this particular case. If you go to the federal websites, if you go to the MassDOT websites, if you go to any of these different places, the 407-page study that we all looked at, if you look at chapters 2 and 3 of those, they talk about planning and feasibility. Every one of these things says that the roundabouts are safer and a better alternative when feasible and proper design. Every one of those reports put in that caveat. So I think this is a better alternative, but I think it has to be with the concessions we talked about.
Okay, suppose the committee were to write a letter to the Board of Selectmen telling them of the importance of the concessions, as you call them.
Right.
The traffic signal, the two crossing guards, and whatever else. like
Signage, flashing
Signage.
light, yeah.
And perhaps, as Mr. Butterfield said, creating a center of the roundabout that is clearly obstructive. In other words, it's clear that you're coming into something.
Yeah, that works good for that situation, but there was also examples where it becomes an inhibitor of safety
Yes.
because you can't see what's going on the other side of the roundabout.
All right,
Yeah,
then
how
strike
would
that
it-
last one. That's-
So I'm just saying, that the example he gave is absolutely true, that traffic would slow on the approach, but they also said that it would diminish the visibility through the roundabout.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it has to be planted properly and all of that.
Yeah.
So if we were to communicate those concessions and how important they are to us, and kind of expect the board to support us with those concessions, then I think we could also then consider taking the motion on the transfer of property.
Would we also be adding something about the wetland space? Not on contingent of it being, but if it does come to the idea that it is not wetlands and we can make a parking lot there, but we don't have the funds for it. We've already said we want to spend our money on educating the students, not on infrastructure at this point because of what we've been going back to town meeting, asking for money for the two high schools and the beautiful fields that we were so lucky to have. I just think it's important that we put that in there too, because that will help as well.
Let me understand what you're saying. So that you're saying that
The
in this
improvements.
communication, that we would say that we would seek support for any debt, no, any expenses that we would incur in redesigning the interior of the parking lot to support the roundabout.
Yes.
I would add, it's probably more of the entry flow and into the parking area, because that is the problem. It's a really tight entrance, and if there was an opportunity to maybe have a peel-off lane where the delineated wetland is now, that peel-off lane may be able to alleviate, rotary traffic. I'm not an engineer, but I think there could be an engineer's view that may be something that could be considered. If there was federal funding, state funding, or TIF funding that may be available to help with this project, I'm sure we could shape language to identify the 4 areas that were agreed upon, and also for consideration moving forward, which would be the redesign.
So actually, Mr. Mugan, you're correct then. Then now we do have an action item, even as a 9.3, because the action item would be, this committee would vote to send a letter to the Board of Selectmen requesting their support in the future in the present and in the future for the following concessions.
Yes.
The floor is open if anybody's interested. Dr. Maestas.
So the action item would be to pen a document.
To what?
To pen a document,
Pen a document, to prepare a
yes,
letter,
yeah.
right.
I'll make that motion that we prepare a letter to the selectmen detailing what we need, the steps that I already detailed, to be comfortable with this project. And I believe they've already agreed to most of them verbally, so there shouldn't be a problem with that. And then we could also put the caveat about, the indecision or lack of knowledge on what's going to happen with the reconfiguration of that lot. And that it would have, the expense would be shared by the selectmen if it's a direct result of that roundabout traffic flow.
I think Mrs. Trisselli makes a really good point. If we are put in the position of having to change our parking area and travel area because of this roundabout, we are looking for support for that. So I think that's what you're saying.
Yes.
So we have a motion to send that to the Board of Selectmen in writing. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Mr. Bonk is the second. Are there questions to that motion? This is not the transfer, this is just this letter. Dr. Mayestas?
I have a question, because I'm hearing two things.
Okay.
I'm hearing, one, that we would like to be, this project there's a desire for this project to be considered for potential funding to be able to reshape the entry. But in the event that there is no funding, I think what you're saying is that there's a second caveat, that potentially supporting with a monetary support to be able to reshape it. If there isn't federal or state or TIF dollars, that would be available to help make it safer.
We're saying both. I think we're saying both.
Both. So we have to
Pick the funding wherever we can get it,
Yes.
Okay,
is what it comes down to.
okay.
Plus the concessions for
Concessions
the
at the
lighting,
meeting.
the signage, and the crossing guards.
So let me see if I'm clear. So those are the project, your support for conveying the property is really contingent upon the 4 areas.
It's not contingent upon,
No?
because once we transfer, we transfer.
Okay, but you won't transfer it unless these are met. These,
I don't know.
No, I think- I'm going to entertain a motion to transfer this evening.
okay.
So what I'm saying is, in good faith, we transfer the property, and in good faith,
There
we
you go.
expect
Yeah,
these
okay.
particular things to
Okay,
happen.
understand that. It's clear for me.
Mrs. Hunt?
Can,
Ms. Hunt.
I know you just said you were gonna make a motion to transfer the property, but can we do that at our next meeting after we get the response from the selectmen based on our letter?
The last time we asked for a response from the Board of
Well, we
Selectmen,
took
we
2
didn't get it.
months. Yeah.
There's got one right
Well,
here.
I mean, now they know that.
You can't respond for that.
If they don't answer.
Committee members with,
I agree with Ms. Hunt.
well, if you agree with Ms. Hunt, if somebody makes a motion to transfer the property, which is the next item on the agenda, and that
put it
motion
down.
doesn't pass, that'll be the reason why it doesn't pass, because we're waiting for a response from the Board of Selectmen about the letter we're about to send them. Do I have that correct?
Yes.
Even if there is a motion. So, go ahead, we're still
We have a
discussing this
motion.
motion.
We have a motion to
now.
send the letter.
To pen the letter. The letter's clear, Dr. Mayestas?
Yeah, I understand.
All right, we can vote electronically this evening?
Not on this item, on the second one, yes.
Because we changed this motion, it's not
changed
in
it.
the system.
Oh, this has to be,
This would have to be a hand
It
vote.
has to
a
change,
hand vote.
yeah.
Everybody understand the motion?
Yes.
Which is pen this
The
letter?
letter.
Yes,
All right.
the
All
letter.
those in favor? That's unanimous. Now, regarding the transfer of property, is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to,
The motion here, I'll read what I have here, to transfer from the school department for school purposes to the Board of Selectmen for general municipal purposes, the care, custody, and control of such portion of the Assessors Map 27, Lot 51 and 54 along Aubrey Street, as needed to carry out the project in locations as depicted on the plan.
okay, I'll make a motion, basically because, not necessarily because I'm in support of the project, but because I think we have most of the information we're gonna have. We have verbal agreements on some of the improvements and betterments other than the wetlands. And the town meeting, in October voted down this article. And I don't think the school committee should withhold a few hundred square feet of land and take it out of the hands of town meeting. I think town meeting should make the final decision again, and they may vote to not approve it or approve it. So, my motion to turn the land over is not necessarily in support of the project, but that I want it to be in town meeting's hands to make that decision.
Is there a second to that motion? The chair is going to set the chair aside to the vice chair, and I will second the motion. You're in charge.
Any discussion on the motion?
I would just say that I think it's a good point, but since our next meeting is ahead of the special town meeting, we would have time to make the transfer.
That's my thought.
And I think that if we do it tonight, we may not get the selectmen to pay attention to us. I think they'll pay attention to us if they're waiting for that second vote.
I agree. All right, so we cannot do this one electronically because the motion's different, or we can?
For some reason, the motions are not, the action items that are connected to motions are not.
So all in favor of the motion on the floor? All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
So
the
this will be
motion
on
did
our
not
agenda
pass.
for the next meeting.
Yes.
You're not happy.
Okay.
Extend the meeting.
You have
Yes.
to vote to extend.
Do we?
10:30.
10:30.
At 10:30.
Do I have a motion to extend?
No, we have to vote to staff and vote.
Ms. Badger?
I'll move.
We have a motion to extend. Second, Mr. Selly, on the question. All those in favor? That's unanimous. The next item is a policy. Policy Subcommittee can address this.
Sure, I'll take this one. Dr. Soren, it's a pretty simple one here. We met recently, had a very productive meeting, talked about a number of policies, medical policies, which will come forward in the near future, but we only have one simple recommendation for you this evening. As you know, we are undergoing a coordinated program review this January. We look forward to the Department of Education coming on site. Dr. Rogers and Mrs. Fry have been submitting a number of documents to the Department of Education. We actually had a meeting with the department a little over a week ago with all of our administrators. They actually made one recommendation while they were on site, and the difference between this coordinated program review and the last one is they're actually allowing us to make some minor corrections before the visit, so it doesn't become a finding when they actually come on site. And this is a very basic one. You may recall back in May, we brought a number of policies before you, particularly around non-discrimination. So a non-discrimination policy is very comprehensive. They made one minor recommendation, and that was to include homelessness in that policy. So the policy recommendation that you have before you simply adds that one word to the policy in 2 locations.
Any additions from the Policy Subcommittee? Nope.
Pretty
Okay,
straightforward.
then this is an action item.
I'm having the technical problems again.
just
So
manual.
I can see the title where it says non-discrimination's under discussion, but it's not repainting. See what's happening? It's showing me the
Yep, I
face
had the
paint.
same thing as soon as I went to click on it.
And I'm clicking sync because it's obviously
I
halfway
do have the
there.
policy here, if you'd like me to read what it says.
No, that's not the issue.
Okay.
To vote.
Oh, to
Yeah,
vote.
To vote.
I
You
don't
have to
see
take
it.
a verbal
Yes.
vote is what I,
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have to have a motion first.
sorry.
Is there a motion? Ms. Badger?
I move that we approve the policy as presented.
There's a motion, and it's been seconded by Ms. Hunt on a question. Just a real quick one. This reference to the address and the phone number, and that will be automatically changed. Do we have to go back into all these policies to make these changes if we put these things in here?
Those policies, if those things would change, I don't think that would be an automatic change.
Okay, that's
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor? That's unanimous. And now we have a job description.
Yes.
Ms. Fry?
Yes. As I mentioned at the last meeting, we're updating our job descriptions, and this is another paraeducator position, and I shared with you at the last meeting about the 4 categories. This is a moderate special needs paraeducator, and again, it was a very collaborative process with the EAPC and some of our staff, and we kept consistent guidelines that are in the, there's about 24 total, but they're all consistent language, so.
Questions, comments, motions?
And I
have
did
a
make
quick- just a quick
changes
question
from
on
the.
number
Yep,
10.
Yep.
Reports all student accidents and/or incidents. I don't, what is an incident?
An incident is if a student has a behavior that is inappropriate and may need a specific behavior plan to deal with that. Some of our students with special needs are also aligned with a
Okay,
specific
so the
behavior
word,
plan.
could we add the word "and/or behavioral incident"?
Sure,
Just to clarify, I don't know
Yep.
what an incident is.
absolutely.
With that addition, is there a motion?
We also made changes from the last paraeducator that were made at the meeting. Michelle made one last week that we
Okay.
added in this as well, the wording.
Ms. Burgess moves it. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Bagley is the second. Any other questions? We'll take an oral vote. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Reports and proposals from committee members. If you have any, make them short. Reports and proposals. Ms. Hunt.
Just really quickly, at the last meeting, I know you weren't here, and I believe Dr. Maestas already knows, at the MASC conference, I offered up our school for a Division III meeting, because I was bragging about our school. And I did hear from them, asking us if we were still interested.
Absolutely.
And to please give them some dates. And I think when we talked to Charlene, I think she was saying around March.
Yeah.
So if we could just think about some dates to do that, they'd still love to.
What day of the week?
I think, I want to say they're usually like a Wednesday.
Time?
We talked about it, but I don't remember, 6 or 7. But I can find that out for
7 p.m.
sure. 6 o'clock, I
Because
think.
they're usually really early.
Right. And it would be better for us to actually attend this meeting if it's in our own hometown,
It'll
so.
be in March, at 6 p.m.
Yeah, March, so they want a
Yeah.
couple dates.
And we'll do it in culinary?
Yeah, and I believe MASC will actually pay for the food.
That's what she did mention.
Yeah,
it.
that's what
So
she mentioned.
I can work on this tomorrow.
So they're very excited and they wanted to make sure that we're
Okay.
still.
Reports, Mrs. Badger. Ms. Badger.
I just wanted to save the date for No Place for Hate is having a coffee house, calling it Stand on the Side of Love Coffee House, at the Church of the Pilgrimage on Saturday night, January 13th, 8 to 11, part of the celebration of Martin Luther King Jr. Weekend. And I just wanted to say that I attended, along with other members, the Little Women on Friday night, and it was fantastic. They did a great job.
Other reports and proposals. Some of us attended the advisory. That was a good evening. Speaker did well.
Well done.
Anything else? Okay, moving along. PYDC,
Nothing, no meeting this.
Building Committee.
Yes. He whaps right on.
Our cars turn to pumpkins pretty soon.
Oh, is that what happens? Straight to pumpkins. All right.
No, we're gonna end.
I was just trying to get, let me just take this. Okay. The first one was Town Hall, and they've had substantial completion of things. They're still working on the historic stair and tile work. Well, you know they've moved in already, and I imagine most of us have seen it. South High School, the main road was open, which we know, we've traveled on it, and but it's only got a
Binder.
binder, that's what it is, a binder now for finishing it. They're gonna finish it in April. They're working on the drainage on the fields and doing a foundation for ball field lights, yeah. And so that's mainly what I have on that. On the Sims House, the architect has done the final punch list. And of course, town meeting did approve well, the property,
Rezoning.
the zoning was the zoning thing. And so they've had bids opened and they're gonna, they didn't like the bids evidently, so they're rebidding in January for it. That's on the salt shed. On the parking deck back, they're updating the, Ted Gentry. Ted Gentry is the project manager, and the drawings are being updated on the parking deck. North Plymouth Fire Station, bids are out for the designer, and it's coming, it's going to be $300,000. It's going to be coming through, the design is. Springtown meeting it'll be. Maritime facility, the zoning map needs, I can't read my own writings. It needs something, but anyway.
It's late. It's 10:30.
On Lincoln Street, the transfer, sell a lease, Melissa, she wanted to know if we would hold off for a couple of years. I guess they're hoping we'll change our mind. Now they've got to pay insurance for an empty building, and they can move they'll move their records now over to they have the space for the records. They were just hoping that they could keep it all open for future. I guess it's close, because I remember when the thing for us was, we really wouldn't have had total control, because they would have had all the vaults full, and they wanted to use meeting space so they could come in and go out whenever they wanted. That was the big part for me that wasn't so pleasant. What else was there? Oh, and the other thing was that because we didn't take it, they had not, when they designed the building or whatever, they didn't make any budget for their fiber, because the fiber optics are all at Lincoln Street. Just thought I'd mention it.
That's not,
Huh? Not so?
that's not accurate.
Well, I put quotes around it, says no budget for fiber. So they're gonna have to relocate it somehow, I don't know. But anyway, that's my report.
All right. It's not true.
Personnel, Ms. Fry.
My computer is also having issues. Certificate appointments, we've had 1. Coach and advisors, we've had 8. Classified appointments, we've had 17. Leaves of absences, we've had 4. And resignations, we've had 6. So,
Thank you. Accounts?
Okay, I wrote it down this time. Whereas the school committee has been provided with a copy of the cost center transfer and transaction summary report and the warrant for review, I move that the Plymouth School Committee accept and approve the report and account payable warrant number S112217, dated November 22nd, for $1,449,590.68 as presented.
Is there a second? Ms. Burgess is the second. Any question to that motion? Okay, all those in favor? That is unanimous vote. Thank you. And now we have 3 sets of minutes to do tonight. We'll start with October the 2nd. Committee members, October the 2nd. Ms. Hunt.
I move that the minutes of October 2nd be approved as presented.
Is there a second? Mr. Morgan is the second. Questions? I have an addition that I think clarifies something that's important. And I'm going to tell you that it's the end of the first paragraph on page 8. And I want to fix that last sentence to read as follows. And stated his intent to send a letter to the Board of Selectmen reporting the school committee's desire to have someone familiar with the project to attend our next meeting and provide additional information.
October 2nd.
And that would be on page 8, bottom of the first paragraph on that page. Right now, it just says send word back. That's all it says. So I want to clarify that, what we meant by that. So with that addition to the minutes, all those in favor? That's unanimous.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Badger abstains. Sorry, thank you.
One abstention.
One abstention, yeah.
October the 16th, we're not voting on tonight, so let's move to October the 21st. Is there a motion? I have Ms. Hunt.
I move that the school committee approve the minutes of October 21st as presented.
Seconded by Ms. Badger. On a question? Okay, all those voting in favor? We have one abstention, it's myself. And then we have now the minutes of October the 24th. Do we have a motion? October the 24th. Ms. Hunt.
Oh, sorry. I move that the school committee approve the minutes from October 24th as presented.
Is there a second? Mr. Bagley's the second. Is there a question or a fix?
You didn't have enough to say.
All right, the vote. All those in favor? That's unanimous. All right, there's no other business come before the committee. We stand adjourned.